Good evening, everyone. We're going to reconvene our school committee meeting for September 23rd. Thank you all for being here. We have a lot on our agenda tonight. I am going to turn it over to our superintendent for the closing and sealing of executive session minutes.
So I recommend the closing and sealing of the executive session minutes as presented.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Next on our agenda, we are going to turn it over to Laura Chapman, our vice chair, for the disclosure of executive session votes. Laura.
Good evening, everybody. There were 6 votes taken in executive session tonight. We had 2 members absent tonight, Member Chambers and Champlin. The first vote, and Pouliot, excuse me. So there's 3 members missing. The first vote that was taken was an approval of the executive session minutes from August 19th. We had 1 abstention, which was Polly Hopkins. All others approved. The second vote that was taken was a motion to pull A2A homeschool instruction request. That was approved by all except for Polly Hopkins abstained. The third vote that was taken was a motion to approve A2 B through O. All other homeschool instruction requests were approved unanimously. The fourth vote was a motion to approve homeschool rescissions. That was a unanimous vote. The fifth vote was a motion to approve the previously pulled A2A, and then that was approved unanimously. The sixth motion was a vote to return to executive session to reconvene. A vote to end executive session and reconvene to open session, and that was unanimous.
Thank you, Laura. We're going to move on to the next section of our agenda, which is recognition. And I'm going to turn it over to our superintendent, Gina Picard, for Charahoe Teacher of the Year and ESP Professional of the Year.
So this is one of my favorite opportunities and recognitions, as it's the highlight for Charahoe. So this year's the Charahoe Regional School District is proud to announce that Lindsay Bliven is the recipient of our 2026 Charahoe District Teacher of the Year Award. This prestigious honor recognizes Mrs. Bliven's exceptional dedication, expertise, and tireless commitment to her students and the broader Charahoe community. Lindsay comes to work every day with a smile and a contagious enthusiasm, modeling both professionalism and a deep passion for teaching. A leader within her school and beyond, she contributes as a member of the school improvement team, the health and wellness team, and a technology leader. She has also taken an initiative to establish a student council to amplify student voice. Her excellence has been recognized nationally for the prestigious PAEMST Award. And I know I'm going to remember her Presidential Academic Education Mathematics. Heidi Fee would be disappointed in me because I have to practice that, but it's a very prestigious Educational Mathematics and Science Award. And she consistently supports district-level curriculum work while opening her classroom as a model for district walkthroughs. Her impact extends far beyond academics. She's forged meaningful community partnerships that bring learning to life, organizing engaging field trips, inviting experts like NBC 10 meteorologists to connect real-world experiences to the curriculum, even landing her students on the evening news, and inspiring students with a personal video message from a former NFL Patriots player as they prepared for RICAS assessment. At every step, she ensures that each student feels supported, encouraged, and motivated to succeed. She is also deeply invested in her own professional growth, knowing that her learning ultimately benefits her students. Collaborative, solutions-oriented, and innovative, she consistently steps forward whenever there is a need in her school or in this district. Her commitment runs even deeper than that, as she also serves as a parent representative on another elementary school improvement team, truly modeling dedication to our school from multiple perspectives. Mrs. Lindsay Bliven is a shining example of what Charahoe stands for, and we are proud to celebrate her incredible contributions to our students, our school, and our community. Mrs. Bliven will also be celebrated this Saturday, September 27th, during the Educator Waterfire Educator Recognition event, and we hope you'll visit with her and see her in Providence this Saturday. Mrs. Bliven, if you could please come to the stage. The chair of the school committee will present you with a school committee citation and the Charahoe pin. Next, we have that the Charahoe Regional School District is proud to announce Agnes Trapasacci as the 2026 Support Professional of the Year. Agnes has been a steady guiding presence in our district for nearly 3 decades. For more than 10 years, she has been the heart and the soul of the Charahoe Tech environment. She is the person who keeps things running smoothly, whether it's in health careers program, the culinary program, or wherever an extra pair of capable hands needs to be. She is there. She brings expertise, holding a CNA license that allows her to work directly with students, learning healthcare skills, guiding them with both technical and know-how and encouragement. She brings creativity, supporting culinary students in preparing meals for events and showcases their talents. She brings something even more powerful, a tireless spirit, a problem-solving mindset, and a warmth that lifts both students and staff. Her colleagues describe her as the glue that holds it all together. She motivates, she raises the bar, and she makes others feel valued. Simply put, she embodies the very best of what it means to be Charahoe as well, in our Charahoe support professionals. Thank you, Agnes Trapasacci. Is Agnes here? I didn't see Agnes. But we have her citation and pen, and I will give that to her tomorrow. Both Lindsay and Agnes were also celebrated along with their colleagues at Convocation 2025 when we welcome back staff and students. So congratulations, and I'll see you Saturday.
Congratulations. All right, so some of the members of the school committee are going to read the Charahoe sports highlights, and we are going to start with member Karen Reynolds.
Boys cross country, Charahoe placed top 6 runners to sweep the Rogers EWG meet. Charahoe swept its Southern Division opening tri-meet over Rogers. Exeter West Greenwich with the top 6 runners across the finish line at a new 2.6-mile course at Brenton Point in Newport, with Leo Haxton finishing first for the Chargers, followed by Isaac Graham, Cam Cogshell, Ben Steer, and Luke Baxter. And then for the girls cross country, Meriden Alger debuted with first place finish as Charahoe also sweeps the meet. Freshman Meriden Alger was the overall winner, and Charahoe kicked off its season with a pair of Southern Division victories over Rogers, Exeter West Greenwich at Brenton Point. Claire Tassano and Chloe Grissom were 4th and 5th overall for the Chargers. Aaliyah Grant took 7th, and Alexa Austin took 10th. Congratulations.
Laura?
Okay, we have field hockey. This is Charahoe versus Prout for the first win of the season. Vivian Smith scored the game-winning goal with an assist from Gabby Ritchie as Charahoe Prout recorded its first win of the season in a 1-0 victory over Pilgrim. Ella Quigley played a great role in transitioning the ball up the field to Maddie Burdick and Ritchie for the Chargers. Nola Belnier made one of the saves for the record shutout. The next one we have up is girls soccer, Charahoe and Barrington. Morgan Brucker, Addie Denacor, and Julia Diogo? Julia Diogo, excuse me, scored second half goals as Charahoe pulled away for a 4-0 victory over Barrington. Eiley Simmons opened the scoring for the Chargers with a 3-3-3 after knocking in a rebound off a penalty kick that went off the fingertips of Barrington goalie Zoe Dyer. It hit the post and bounced directly back to Simmons. Aubrey Courier and Kylie Toro each added assists, and Ruby Cam made 4 saves. This was a much-needed win for us. Last week, we lost 2 games where we did everything right but score. Charahoe coach Brittany Godbout said, "In both games, we had multiple opportunities to take the lead, but we just couldn't finish. It was so nice to see 4 different goal scorers and 2 goals off of some nice passing." Congratulations, girls.
Thank you. And Polly Hopkins is going to read the rest.
More than rest. I'll read boys soccer to start.
Yes.
Charahoe makes it a repeat at the Piver Cup. This excerpt is from Larry Kelly, special to the Sun. 2 spectacular saves in 2 seconds. Charahoe boys soccer. Charahoe's Connor Prescott stopped Stonington All-New England player Sal Alessio with a sprawling deflection on a 1-versus-1 move, and then denied Nolan Neal's rebound kick with another diving stop in the quick first half sequence to preserve Charahoe's 1-0 victory over the Bears for the Chargers' second straight Cup championship. It was the third straight Piver crown for Charahoe coach Brian Williams, who was Westerly's mentor in 2023. The tournament is named in honor of Piver, a former Stonington standout goalkeeper who died while working in the World Trade Center during the 9/11 attack. Those were tremendous saves, Williams said. To keep Alessio off the scoreboard is huge. Hats off to Connor and also to our back line. Charahoe primarily marked Alessio, a 26-goal scorer last year and nearly 80-goal career striker, with the rangy pair of a 6'2" Ethan McCann and 6'1" Brandon Resinger. It was the second straight season that Charahoe has blanked Alessio and Stonington, winning the 2024 Piver semifinal 3-0. Charahoe also employs McCann's height up front during direct kicks. 10 minutes into the game, the defensive ace turned scorer, collecting a rebound off Luca Fasaro's well-placed 35-yard direct kick from the left side. The win marked the start of a grueling stretch of 4 games in 6 days. Congratulations, Charahoe boys soccer.
Thank you.
You want me to read girls?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll read girls tennis too. Charahoe sweeps doubles in win over Narragansett. Molly Orwin and Mackenzie Andrade led a sweep of the doubles for Charahoe in its 5-2 victory over Narragansett. Ella Murphy and Brooke Patnod and Allie Wood and Bryn Campbell also posted doubles wins for the Chargers. Aubrey Campbell and Olivia Gray posted singles wins. Charahoe Downs Westerly at Rotary Park is the headline. Olivia Mandaria, I think I said that, rallied to win in 3 sets at number 3 singles as Charahoe downed Westerly 6-1 at Rotary Park. Molly Owen and Mackenzie Andrade won at number 1 doubles for the Chargers. Ella Murphy and Brooke Patnod and Bryn Campbell and Allie Wood also had doubles wins. Virginia Royce won at number 1 singles for the Bulldogs. Charahoe faces Smithfield on Wednesday at Stonington High School.
Thank you, Polly. Thank you to Karen and Laura for also reading those updates. Karen, did you have something?
I just want to add that the girls soccer team also won the Piva Cup this year. I believe it's the 4th year in a row that they've won it.
They did.
And it came down to an amazing finish with just penalty kicks. It was an awesome, awesome game.
Thank you, Karen. Congratulations to the team. All right, next on our agenda for recognition is,
Somebody read girls volleyball?
Volleyball?
Volleyball.
who's got volleyball?
I'll read it.
You do. Okay, you're up.
Charahoe records first win in 5-game thriller over Cranston West. Charahoe recorded its first win of the season, rallying to win in 5 games. I can't even read all those numbers. On Friday over Cranston West, Olivia Lowell finished with 15 assists, 6 kills, and 9 digs for the Chargers. Alexis Corus added 9 kills, 10 digs, and 3 aces, and Abby Tiernan had 11 kills, 4 assists, and 7 digs. Dang, girls.
Excellent. Thank you. Next on our recognition, Dan Potts Kids Grow Garden Summer Report and Recognition. Thanks to the generosity of Karen and Larry Phelps, Larry is our member on the school committee, and Eric Cairo, who all donated their time and equipment, the garden flourished and provided a meaningful way to give back to the community. This season, the Dan Potts Kids Grow Garden donated 82.5 pounds of fresh vegetables to RICAN. These donations directly supported families in need, and we are grateful for the positive impact our garden has had. Thank you to Superintendent Picard for her continued support of programs that strengthen both our school and community. Thank you again, Larry, to you and your family. And I'll turn it over now to the superintendent has some recognition. And Gina?
I'd also like to thank Trisha Whipple, who is actually now running the Dan Potts Gardens in Dan's absence and retirement. So while we wish Dan well, Trisha has done a nice job, and I really appreciate the Phelps' support and the entire community. So thank you to Trisha. So I have a recognition, and this is a recognition, a surprise recognition by the Student Education Advisory Panel to the Superintendent. The students, this is their first opportunity to create a recognition for Charahoe, and it's called the First Impressions Recognition. And if you came to convocation or if you heard about it, we discussed really the importance of everybody in our school community, our custodians, our clerks, our secretaries, district admin, teachers, support professionals. We all work together, and we all have a vested interest, but everyone really goes above and beyond. So one of the things the students charged me with, because they like to give me homework, is that I was to give the first recognition, and then they would create the criteria of how they wanted to look for these individuals in our community. So the first impressions, I took a couple of bus rides this year, and I met bus monitor Frank Wyman and bus driver Ed Odishu. And I have to tell you, they are going to get the first impressions. They already received their pins and they were recognized. And I explained to them that the first impressions recognition is about just showing joy. So our bus drivers and our bus monitors are the first faces our kids see in the morning and the last faces our kids see in the afternoon. And they really do yeoman's work. And sometimes it can feel relentless, but they do it with a smile, and they greeted every child by name, family members, younger siblings, even their pets. So when you get, when I got to ride with bus a few times, Ed and Frank, I have to say, everyone leaves really happy, and they're just a joy to be with. So congratulations to Frank and Ed, our first ever recognition for the First Impressions Award for our students. And last but not least, on behalf of the Rhode Island Board of Education and the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, it is my pleasure to present Chair Louise Dinsmore and School Committee Member Jessica Purcell with their citations for completion of the Rhode Island Association of School Committees Leadership Academy. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Those were very good educational sessions. Wouldn't you agree, Jess? We came away empowered to do our jobs. All right, thank you, Gina. We are going to move on to policy, graduation policy, and I'm going to turn this over, I think, to Gina and perhaps Polly as the chair of the policy subcommittee.
So the graduation policy is just a crosswalk alignment. The school committee has already approved the policies where the changes were made. So this is just a cleanup to make sure it abides by the RIDE regulations and the law. Andrea Drake presented at the policy subcommittee, just the quick review. But again, this is just a cleanup, and my recommendation is to approve the graduation policy as submitted.
So moved. Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion by the members? Okay, hearing no discussion, seeing no hands raised, all in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, public forum is next on our agenda. So as you all know, you are welcome to speak on items not on our agenda. Please direct your comments to the chair. As part of the Charahoe School District's public forum policy, it states, quote, that each citizen who makes a public statement has a responsibility to be accurate, present facts, present information based upon personal knowledge, not hearsay, be considerate and allow others to speak without interruption, unquote. So as the chair, it's my role to keep decorum and be respectful of time management. With that being said, I'm asking the audience to refrain from any cheering, clapping, booing, shouting, or disrupting the speaker who has the floor. We have 5 speakers, all from our district tonight. So our public forum policy states that this section of our agenda may not exceed 30 minutes. So each speaker will be allowed up to 4 minutes to speak. And I'm going to ask our vice chair, Laura Chapman, to keep the time. When the timer goes off, I'm going to thank you and move on to our next speaker. Please try to make your points as succinct as possible within your time allotment. And we have 5 speakers tonight, and I'll announce the first 3 speakers are Etta Zaslow from Hopkinton, Laura Rahm from Charlestown, Helen Sheehan from Richmond. So if Laura and Helen could make their way closer to the front, that would be appreciated. Thanks, Etta.
Is this on? Are we hearing? Okay.
Turn the button. Is it okay? No, I think it worked now. Go ahead, Etta.
Is that better? Okay. So, thank you, Louise.
You're welcome.
I rise tonight as a taxpayer, which might surprise you all. A taxpayer who believes that education is a shared civic duty and that public education is the key to a productive democracy. I pay taxes as an duty, as an investment in our shared community because I want to drive on smooth roads, cleared of snow when it falls, and be surrounded by people who are skilled and educated. I want the kids in my rural neighborhood to have expansive learning experiences beyond the neighborhood that will ensure a successful life, whatever they choose. So I've really been thinking deeply about our situation here in Chariho. I've lived in Hope Valley for over 20 years, taught for 10 years at the middle school, served on the building committee for CALA, and the Chariho, which is the Chariho Alternative Learning Academy. And I presently serve on the Hopkinton Economic Development Commission. So I have vested interest in what goes on in this community. Tonight I speak from the heart to encourage a coming together of all of us, newcomers and homesteaders. First of all, for our students, but also for the economy of our community. If achievement in Chariho Public Schools start to decline, young families with children will not continue to move here. Sure, the student enrollment will decline, but so will our property values, but probably not our taxes. I struggle to understand how that helps any taxpayer in the Chariho district. The narrowly defeated $150 million school bond for 3 new elementary schools and the maintenance improvements to the Switch Road campus in 2024 is proving to be regrettable. It was a one-time offer based on the statewide bond that financed it for a reimbursement rate of up to 81%. Those of us who voted for it are upset that we left maybe around $120 million on the table in reimbursements, and we still have outdated schools. If we float another bond at that same amount, we will only be eligible for up to 61% reimbursement, which will be about $91 million. Over $30 million difference. And I bring this to your attention to encourage you to really do the best job you can with this capital improvement plan that you're planning to work on tonight. The real kicker to me and many others is the fact that the reimbursement money from RIDE comes from a statewide school building bond that passed in 2018. And it passed with a 76% state approval. So possibly many of us voted for that. And the reason for that bond was the recognition that we have old schools throughout the state, and they wanted to encourage upgrading of all of our aging schools with new ones throughout the state. Those reimbursements come from a fund created by our tax dollars. Other school districts are benefiting from our money that we left on the table, an amount estimated to be $5 billion. Think about this. While our students are still waiting for the adults in this community to commit to a plan. Another fact that nags at me is the longer we kick the can down the road, the more expensive everything gets. It's past time to upgrade our elementary schools to that A+ quality that we all want. I encourage school committee members, parents, professional educators, community members, all to be part of the solution in order to be successful. Be a successful capital improvement plan. Studies show that well-designed schools can lead to higher student achievement, retention of great teachers, and better physical and mental health for all involved. I'm not saying build palaces, but safe, secure, inviting, and accessible buildings as an investment in our community and especially our kids.
Thank you, Etta.
Thanks.
Laura Ram, please.
Can I just clarify, it's 65%, if I'm not mistaken, right?
We have we can get the 4% regional bonus.
Yeah, just to clarify, so Etta, if you get your numbers straight, instead of the 61, it's 65% because we're regional. Okay?
Laura?
Hi, good evening. My name is Laura Rum from Charlestown, and I would like to ask permission to read a letter from a parent from Charlestown Elementary School.
Please.
These are not my words. These are a parent that could not be here this evening.
Okay.
So, is that okay?
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. I am writing to you as a concerned parent regarding the impact that repeated disruptive behaviors are having on my child's classroom. While I understand that schools work hard to meet the needs of all students, I feel it is important to share the very real consequences that these ongoing disruptions are having on both teaching and learning. When a student has a behavioral outburst, the entire class is often forced to stop what they are doing. Teachers are losing valuable instructional minutes, and students are missing out on lessons during a critical stage of their education. These disruptions are not occasional. They are becoming frequent enough that children are falling behind, despite their teachers' best efforts to make up the lost time. Beyond the loss of learning, the emotional impact is concerning. Children have expressed feelings of they are scared and uneasy when classmates scream, throw objects, or block exits. School should be a safe and supportive environment, but right now, many children feel anxious and distracted instead of focused and ready to learn. I want to emphasize appreciation for the teachers who are doing everything they can under very difficult circumstances. However, the situation is not sustainable, and it is not fair to the children who come to school ready to learn. They deserve classrooms where safety and learning can take place without constant interruption. I respectfully asked for the district to take action to address these disruptions so that teachers can teach, students can learn, and all children can feel safe at school. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter. Ryan Russo, Charlestown. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Louise, can we add that into our meeting minutes if she has a copy of that?
Laura? Please. Why don't you hand that to, okay, Angela, thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. All right, next is Helen Sheehan, and then we have Brittany Maranzoni and Kelly Gillette. So if Brittany and Kelly can make their way down to the front, that would be appreciated. Mrs. Sheehan?
Hi, I'm Helen Sheehan from Richmond. I see that on this green and white paper, there's a website to go to for information, and maybe you could let me know later if the Bureau Veritas, when it will be available, and will it be on that website, and will the Jacobs report be on there so that we can look at it? Also, when I looked at the numbers of what it would cost to repair the 3 schools, as it's listed here, that is $16.7 million as compared to,
It's not accurate.
Helen, I'm not sure, where are you getting that information, 16.7 million?
it says insight into basic maintenance, but does not evaluate classrooms, program growth, or educational needs. And then it listed all the 3 schools. And next to it is the dollar value, which I assume is the repair cost.
Okay. So,
This is an agenda item.
so this is an agenda item that we're going to discuss when the representatives from Colliers and SLAM. So if this is pertaining to
Well, I'm
that.
talking about taxes.
Okay.
So, as far as I know, there's not one school in Rhode Island that has started building that has been on budget.
That's not accurate.
All right, maybe is there one that's
There's more than
unbudgeted?
one. I'm going to hold her to the public forum.
From what I
policy.
see, all I hear is millions of dollars over Cranston. There's so many of them way, way over budget. So I'm concerned that we will have the same issue. The other issue is historically, the schools keep raising the taxes every year.
That's inaccurate. We have no control over taxes. This is not fair.
Did she say we didn't raise the taxes?
We have nothing to do with, the schools have nothing to do with taxes. We don't control police, fire, senior centers.
You tell us what we have to pay you, and that's what we pay you.
We make a budget that's voted on by the people of the
You
towns.
you make a budget, and the towns have to pay that budget.
That's how it does it.
have
And
to
every,
pay-
wait, that's not unique to Charahoe.
Your budget is determined by you.
The school committee.
The school committee determines the budget, and right now it takes almost 80% of the taxes in Richmond. It only takes 24% of the budget in Charlestown. So I would like you to look very carefully at what the taxes, what you're doing for budget. So I don't know what the number of teachers is in comparison to the non-teaching staff, but the money should be going more to the teachers, because that's the main job. So I would like you to look at those hard decisions about where you might consider some of the expenses, because truly, there are so many people that struggle with paying the taxes. Anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Mrs. Sheehan. Brittany Moranzoni from Charlestown. I got it, right, Brittany? Thank you.
Good evening. So I'm Brittany Moranzoni. I'm a parent of I have 3 students in Charahoe and a resident of Charlestown. So I'm here today to bring attention to concerns of parents that have reached out to me personally. Many classrooms within the school at Charlestown have been evacuated due to behavioral disruptions. Parents are not made aware of these disruptions from administration, but when they come home on the bus, in the car, immediately. While I truly believe in respecting the privacy of students during these moments, it's important to recognize our children may be losing 30 minutes or more of instructional time due to the escalation and de-escalation strategies. Teachers are forced to move forward with curriculum regardless of whether the material being taught is mastered or understood, all due to the strict district deadlines. Unfortunately, parents are not being informed of this loss of instruction time by the district. Instead, when inquiries are made, a standard reply that we cannot share the information due to policy restrictions. During the past few weeks, parents have actively searched for that policy that prohibits administration from contacting parents regarding classroom evacuations. There is a growing concern and frustration among parents over the lack of transparency and the generic responses being provided. Our children are missing valuable instructional time as a result of these behaviors. But I have some solutions to propose. Collaborate with Jonathan Anderson to formulate a statement that can be issued when such events occur, ensuring parents are informed. Parents don't need detailed information about the incident, but a simple notification that the evacuation took place would allow us to address as parents with our children, like how we see fit. Acknowledge that our children are also affected in these situations as they witness the events. Please provide the policy that states we as parents are not allowed to be informed about any disruptions that could have an impact on our children's learning or emotional well-being. Ensure adequate staffing is in place. Currently, there is no effort in hiring any additional staffing in elementary school, according to the Charahoe website today, to help support staff and relieve the stress our teachers and building administrators. I want to emphasize that I support our teachers wholeheartedly. I appreciate everything they do to manage behaviors and maintain instruction amidst the stress. I firmly believe that teachers are not receiving enough support in handling behaviors. I trust the educators and staff with my children, at my children's school to provide them with the best education possible. But this can only happen if we stand up and voice our concerns. I do urge parents on a conversation daily to reach out. If these incidents are happening and these are evacuations, I'm urging them to reach out to the administrators and Gina Picard to illustrate our pleading support for the classroom. All students deserve necessary resources and support. Parents demand transparency regarding our children's education. We want to see the policy that clearly states in black and white, not subjectively, that you cannot share with us incidents that involve our individual child's intellectual and emotional well-being. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I think the superintendent would like to comment on that.
I'm actually concerned that Mrs. Maranzoni used to be an employee here, so if she's not sure what FERPA stands for, that's the federal law. Federal law does not allow us to discuss other people's children.
However,
so,
our-
please, I gave you the
Sorry,
floor. It's my turn.
That's fine.
So when we talk about district policies and protocols, there is a multi-tiered systems of support, guidance for ensuring positive behaviors. That guidance has been around for the first 2 years that I came. We are now have MTSS tier 1 and tier 2 teams. What that basically means is we have a tier 1 consistent strategies across the district and classrooms. When those strategies are not utilized consistently, our teachers do need more support. I am proud to say, first time ever, we have social workers in every one of our schools starting this year. And that's thanks to this school committee up here for the budget. We also have a school psychologist in every single building, full-time. That has never happened. And that's thanks to this school committee up here. And what I can tell you is our teachers do work hard. They work hard every day. And I'm in those classrooms. I'm at Charlestown twice a week, 4 hours during the day. And I'm witnessing teachers doing their best job, like you said. But I'm concerned that what you're presenting isn't accurate. We cannot imagine being a parent of a child who's had an escalated event where kids go home and talk about said child. What would you expect the principal to be able to say? Violate the law? We can't violate the law. We can only share what we're allowed. And yes, John Anderson provided Principal Poor with exactly what she couldn't say. He always advises, because we have a responsibility to all children. We have the free, appropriate public education. We're not a private school. There are laws around how you can discipline students. I'm happy to share those laws. Brittany, if you reach out to me, I'm happy to have a one-on-one session with you so I can show you all the documents that you're not sure where to find.
Thank you for mentioning that I was a teacher prior. That's fine, but this has nothing to do with me being teacher prior. What it does have to do with is that the telephone game of parents, when children are coming home, guess what? We all know the names of every situation. We all know from 8-year-olds what the situation is. I'm not asking, the parents are not asking for there to be anything other than a general statement, your child's classroom was evacuated.
That was provided.
It is not provided to the parents on the day that it happens.
Excuse me. When it happens, it should be. I will speak to Ms. Poor about the systems around that, because we do have the systems, as you know,
It has
the
not
crisis
happened.
prevention, intervention, and she has shared with me that she has, and I will follow up. We don't discuss employees here, and I can't discuss personnel.
Thank you, Brittany.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brittany, do you have a copy of that you could?
Yes, I will email it to the school committee members.
Thank you, I
Thank you.
appreciate that.
Okay. Kelly Gillette.
Good evening. I'm here to urgently raise concerns about the lack of consistency and safety in the learning environment at Charlestown Elementary School. Frequent and severe classroom disruptions are compromising students' education, teachers' ability to instruct, and the overall safety of the school community. Twice within a 2-week period, of the 4 weeks that school has been in session, my child's class was forced to evacuate, once after a student blocked the doorway while screaming and crying, and again while students were displaced from the music and art room for similar behaviors left to hold class in the hallway. These are not isolated incidents. They reflect a recurring pattern that disrupts learning and creates serious safety risks. Parents across multiple grade levels are reporting similar issues. These incidents leave teachers and students in unsafe situations and interrupt instructional minutes for entire classrooms of children. Teachers are also bearing the financial and emotional burden. Many spend their own money to ensure that students have necessary materials, which are sometimes destroyed during disruptions. Teachers then spend hours restoring their classrooms. This is unsustainable and unacceptable. Despite these challenges, I want to commend the teachers for their perseverance, patience, and dedication. Their extraordinary efforts do not go unnoticed. And as parents, we are committed to supporting them in every way possible. Parents are being made aware of these incidents, not through official communication, but by our young children sharing their experiences at home. Many are expressing confusion, frustration, anxiety, stress, and even behavioral changes. We strongly urge the school to prioritize transparency and timely communication so that parents are fully informed of incidents affecting our children's safety and learning. Students deserve a stable, structured, and safe learning environment. Teachers deserve the resources and support necessary to do their jobs effectively without fear of repeated disruptions undermining their work. As a district, we cannot allow this pattern to continue. I am calling on the committee to take immediate action, whether through increased staffing, stronger behavioral supports, or district-wide protocols prioritizing safety and instruction. Change is urgently needed. We as parents would like to see these issues resolved within the district before escalating these concerns. Thank you for your attention to this matter. We look forward to hearing what steps will be taken to ensure consistency, safety, and accountability in our schools.
Mrs. Gillette, thank you for speaking tonight. So what I'm going to ask you to do, and I appreciate you bringing that to our attention, it looks like that there are some parents here who perhaps share your concerns. So what I'm going to ask you to do as advocates for your children is to sit proactively with the principal, Mrs. Poor, and if you can, okay, all right. So if that is not to your satisfaction, then I would encourage you to set up one-on-one meetings or as a group with Mrs. Picard, the superintendent. And I'm sure Mrs. Picard will inform us as to next steps to hopefully address these concerns. So thank you for coming tonight, all of you, and for letting us know. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Kelly, do you have a copy of that you can give to the secretary? Or
I did email it this morning.
great, thank you.
I'm sorry, Linda, did you say something?
I just said, we received
Okay, yes, we did. Thank you. All right, thank you for your comments, everyone. And we are going to move on now to 9 of our agenda, which is business consideration. I'm sorry. You cannot, I'm sorry. So our policy is that you have to sign up first and then we would recognize you. But I think Kelly Gillette was the last person on our public forum sign-up sheet. But if you have concerns that you want to make the school committee aware of, all of our email addresses are on the Charahoe website. So please feel free to email the members of the school committee. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Okay, so I'm going to move on to number 9, business consideration, 9A, consideration of and vote on negotiation, subcommittee's recommendation to approve the NEA certified final tentative agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Discussion? I would like to take this opportunity to thank the members of the union and Union President Vin Lefkowitz and NEA Representative Leslie Florio on the collaborative efforts as we embark on a new 3-year agreement with our educators. And we realize and value our educators. And there were members of the subcommittee, which were Diane Teft, the chair of the subcommittee for NEA negotiations, myself, Patricia Pouliot, and Laura Chapman, who was just added last month. And we came to a final tentative agreement. Any other comments by the committee? Okay, so Diane, did you want to say something?
Hi, yes.
Of course.
I'd also like to add that it was brought to the members, and we did receive information today that they will be ratifying that contract.
Thank you, Diane, for that information. All right, is there anyone else that would like to speak on this? Okay, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Thank you. Madam Clerk, did you get that?
I did,
Okay, thank you. All right, next on our agenda is a presentation by SLAM of possible elementary school redesign And I just would, before we ask the representatives from SLAM and Colliers to make their presentation, I would just like to say that by law, in 2018, school districts in Rhode Island were required to have an elementary facilities plan as part of their 5-year capital plan. Charahoe has not had a comprehensive plan in many years, but not for lack of trying, which makes this work that we are about to tackle as a school committee urgent, and it is required by law. As you may recall, the school committee, during a special meeting on August 5th, engaged Colliers and SLAM Collaborative as our project managers and architects to help us devise our elementary school plan. Tonight, I'm delighted to welcome representatives from SLAM and Colliers, who will be giving us a presentation on 3 elementary school options the school committee will consider, and also the community will be afforded the opportunity to come to town hall style meetings starting next week at each elementary school. At those meetings, the community can give feedback, and then the school committee must then decide at our October meeting which plan to move forward with as part of a stage 2 application that we will eventually submit to the Rhode Island Department of Education. Gina, would you like to say anything before we turn it over to our guests?
So we actually have slides built into the presentation for context, but just I think what's important to remember is there's no decisions being made tonight. This is really for the school committee to understand the options that they asked SLAM to provide some examples on. So you're not seeing actual representations of schools that we're getting. This is examples of possibilities based on options provided by the school committee at their August 5th meeting where they hired Colliers and SLAM to do this work. So the community meetings that will be held is where you can provide some input and ask some questions regarding what the school committee puts forward. So the presentation tonight is to allow the school committee to ensure that it is the message they want their constituents to hear, so it's fine-tuned and that they can stand behind the message as it goes to every school. So this is really an important opportunity for the committee to ensure that the slides are the way you need them, the information and the clarity is there for your constituencies.
Okay, so I think what we're going to do is the members of the school committee will be asked to sit in the audience while we have the screen come down, and then we'll turn the presentation over to our guests. Kathy, are you going to be taking the lead on the presentation? Okay. Sir, if you can just give us your name for the record, because you're going to be leading our presentation, and I would appreciate making sure that all of our members know who you are and your role. Thank you.
My name is Mark Rhodes. I'm a design principal of SLAM.
Mark, what is your last name?
Rhodes, R-H-O-A-D-E-S.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Mark, we're going to ask you to speak right into the microphone because we're hearing from the audience that they couldn't hear what you just said. Thank you.
I'll get eat it. It's getting there. Yeah.
This spins. This spins around. Yeah, it does. Yeah. You still reaching? All right, are we good? Uh-oh. Oh, no. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. We're really excited to be here. I'm Kathy Ellithorpe. I'm the principal in charge from the SLAM Collaborative. I'm an architect, and Mark is here. He's going to present. He's the lead designer. And we also have Corey Boudreau, who's working with us on the project as well. So I'm going to let Mark take over. And again, thank you all for joining us tonight.
So I will lean over and destroy my back into this mic, which was a little taller. I can lift it up. Oh, right off the stand. All right, now I feel like a rock star. So I'm going to go through a little bit of a presentation, and as mentioned, this is very conceptual in nature to really look at 3 ideas that we were asked to study and provide some conceptual costs for. What I'll do is I'll go through a little bit of what we were asked to do, and I think Gina would like to participate in this. Yeah, I know.
Oh, don't give me the mic. Okay. So the why now. So the flyer that one of our constituents mentioned earlier talks about the opportunity that exists right now and the Rhode Island law. So back in 2018, when we talked about the state bond, and I think it was Ms. Zasloff that mentioned that, there was an opportunity in the state because many of the facilities across the state were very much in need of repair beyond. Because what RIDE will tell you is a school's life is about 50 years, because obviously it takes a beating, right? Where there's a lot of kids, most of us don't have, 500 kids walking through our bathrooms every single day. So this takes a hit, takes a toll. So the Jacobs assessment was done back in 2017, and that's available on the state's website. So if you search Jacobs assessment, you'll get that. But what's important to remember is the Jacobs assessment and the Bureau Veritas report are not for us, because we have to do a deeper study. That's basically was put into law so the General Assembly could have an overview of what it means that our schools need, and its basic maintenance and infrastructure. It doesn't look at classrooms. It doesn't look at our learning spaces. It's just basic maintenance. And what the Jacobs does and what Bureau Veritas will do for the General Assembly is give you sort of a cost outlook for about 5 years what you can expect. The problem with the Bureau Veritas report is it's not available. However, we're doing a stage 2, which is what we've hired SLAM to do. That is the most in-depth report you can do as a school district. It's required by law. So the state does not allow you to do projects that are not approved to receive reimbursement. And oftentimes, and I think the last time we did this, there was a lot of confusion around what people thought the Charahoe Act could or couldn't do. And I just want to be clear. The laws have changed, so I ask that before we provide information to taxpayers that they may anchor to, that we speak factual, and if you're not sure, I'm happy to always assist. So the Bureau Veritas report, we're hearing from RIDE possibly in the fall, but again, it really is neither here or there for us, because you're doing a stage 2, so you're going to get a more in-depth analysis of our buildings. That's a cursory overview. So when you look at the building ages from Richmond, Charleston, and Ashway, Richmond reaches 90 years this year. Charlestown's built in 1954, so you're talking, you're good, almost 80 years old, and then at Ashway, almost 70. So when you look at our opportunity, we do get a 61-cent minimum reimbursement, which is available on RIDE's website. That's the minimum, and then we have 4%. But there are some opportunities that I would be talking to our General Assembly of reps and senators to really push RIDE to think more vision-oriented around career and tech opportunities with younger learners, which are really exploratory. And we're doing that work now. Charahoe is a national leader. It was recognized as a national leader with the U.S. Green Ribbon Award. And we believe, and RIDE believes, that we are very, very much visionary thinkers, and is excited to see this plan come to fruition. And then really what we want to do is remember, I ask all of you, remember, you're not building the school of 5 years from now. We're building the school that's going to outlive, hopefully, all of us in this room, because you want to make sure it lasts. So we want to really don't think about the schools you went to. I encourage you to visit some of the new facilities, look online if you can't go visit, on some of the opportunities that exist, because we're creating the schools of 100 years from now, not the schools in 5 years from now. So we really have a huge opportunity here in Charahoe to make sure that we think about education in its most inspiring form.
I think it is important to note that the community input sessions are listed up there, so we will be there to represent input from the committee. We'll incorporate that input and represent those ideas to each community, because we really do need to hear from you. A little bit on a timeline. Gina will go over that. You're going to stand for a second. Yeah.
They just like to hear me talk. So then our elementary planning timeline, so where are we? We are in June 2024, when, after you all recall, the May bond did not pass. So we began working in June to reestablish our necessity for school construction committee. And then we worked on our stage 1, again, required by law. That's been new since 2018. So if you're thinking about the Cala building, you're thinking about old rules and old laws. Those don't exist anymore. So on February 15th, we had a new revised stage 1. We are one of the only districts that keep doing this. So we're putting taxpayer dollars into stage 1 and stage 2 plans that are not coming to fruition, where we could be putting that money into plans. So what we really want to know is, what are the questions, what's holding you back, so that we understand and can really address those questions. So February 15th, we submitted the stage 1 application, and stage 1 very easily means show us all the facility reports, and with your architect, because you are required to hire an architect and you are required to have an owner's project manager. So with that, they go in and they provide a facility overview of all of the needs of the district, including our classroom spaces, which is more than the Jacobs and Bureau Veritas will do. And then RIDE reviews it, and then they approve stage 1. That approval came to us about June of 2025. Then we met as a committee, September 23, you see we're here. So on August 5th at their special meeting, they hired SLAM, they hired Colliers. August 5th, we hired them. Then we had to do contracts with them. And the fact that we have a presentation here tonight, I'm really proud of. I want to thank SLAM and Colliers, because that's not an easy turnaround, but I thank you for the work. Let's just say we've been doing this for a while, so we've had to repackage a few things and update, but I think if we're all aligned to do what's best for kids, we'll make sure we understand what the community needs and wants, because you will determine what the schools look like. And then we're here tonight, so then Mark already mentioned that we have 3 community meetings, one at Richmond, it's at September 29th. We have the one at Charlestown in October and the one in Ashaway in October as well. And if you check on our website and the e-updates, those dates are there as well. So, is this me or you?
Thank you. Gina could actually recite this whole presentation. We were asked to look at 3 different configurations for the elementary schools. One was a carryover from what we studied a year and a half ago or so, updated to today. But more importantly, we looked at a unified school, which means taking all 3 schools and combining them into one facility on a site, a combined site. And the third option was to take a look at renovations and additions. Take a look at those existing schools, keep the character of what's there where we can, but understanding the average square foot per class in your existing schools is about 560 square feet. RIDE standards are 900 square feet. So it's really, given the class sizes, your teacher contract, the amount of students that are in these classes, it's not so great from that point of view. We're also looking for parity amongst all of the schools. So everything we show you, the ed spec, the program behind them, is exactly the same. We wanted parity. So if it meant a bigger cafeteria, they all got that same cafeteria. Because your schools right now have different populations at each school. What we're looking to do is have more parity, so they're the even numbers of kids in each of those schools. That means the cafeterias get bigger, the gyms get bigger, the support spaces get bigger, administrative spaces get bigger, specialty spaces, we'll talk about Da Vinci spaces, which are expanded learning opportunities that are different than being within 4 walls of a classroom. But these were the things that we studied. Things that won't change: your main campus, effectively. The fields are the fields, the buildings are the buildings. You're doing yeoman's work to really maintain those. So that was not really part of our charge. So when we think about a site for a unified school, it is not on the main campus. That's important to note. Nothing is disturbed on the main campus. When we think about a site, a future site for taking and combining 3 schools into one unified school, a regional elementary school, it will not impact the existing campus. No detriment to the fields, to any of the open space. Anything that's there stays there. It will.
Another note would be that there have been some opportunities from school committee. I've heard from Laura Chapman, Linda Lyle, Louise Dinsmore, Karen Reynolds, Jess Purcell. Gina, is there any opportunity to bring grade 5 back? When we first started this 5 years ago, RIDE said no, because the bonds and the bonuses that were designed by the General Assembly did not allow you to underutilize spaces. However, everything changes, right? Sometimes when time passes, everything happens for a reason. So one of the things that they did say is that if that is an interest of the community, with our career and tech vision, we're getting ready for a new strategic plan, Vision 2029. That's something they want to know more about, and they're interested. They see the work we're doing that's nationally recognized, and they do think that we could be beginning to think about moving grade 5 back if that's what the community wants. So that's an opportunity that also exists if we think about the things that we've heard from our constituencies that may be more fruitful for us to focus on. But this presentation doesn't show that because we haven't had those conversations, but I wanted to be clear that most of your school committee, at least half, I think, have talked about bringing grade 5 back. So those are the kinds of things that if that's an interest, we have to know now because that plan will have to happen. So those are the things we want to know. Yes, no, how should we listen to the community? What are those things that you really want to see? And we know that grade 5 is an opportunity. And as long as RIDE hears our plan, they especially with career and tech opportunities, they know that we're a beacon for the state for that.
So as I mentioned, parity across the district is important. That was part of what we really, the charge from the committee. When we look at student population, we are required by RIDE to look at projections that are 5 years out. So from the date we submit stage 2, 5 years from that date, 2031 would be that date. NESDEC is an organization that looks at student populations across the state. They're actually regional. 1,281 students was represented. That's pre-K through 4th grade. That doesn't include 5th grade. So that's pre-K through 4th grade, 1,281 students. When we did the last go around, the last stage 2 for you before, we were designing for a similar number, a little bit less, but the capacity of the schools that we were designing at that time was about 1,340. So we don't just design to that number because that's not going to work long term. We base it based on your teacher contracts, the maximum students in a classroom, how you actually want your kids to learn in conversations with RIDE. But we are required, and that's really sets the amount of money the state will chip in is based on the number of students represented in our stage 2. So that's non-negotiable with RIDE. So option 1, I'll go through kind of a unified school building, which was a really interesting design opportunity for us. What's interesting when we look at this, it takes about 27 to 33 acres to pull this kind of school off. It probably can be a little bit less, but we figure there needs to be multi-purpose or community fields as part of this because you have that many children, you have the community wants to come together and use this school. These schools become community resources. It's about education, but after hours, it's about bringing you all together in really interesting ways to use those spaces. This is a site, and if this option through the community discussions and working with the school committee is accepted, we'll look for site options. RIDE will require us to have a letter of intent to submit. We just can't say it's going to be a site to be named later. They really need to see the proof. It's kind of interesting when you look at a school, when you bring 3 schools together, your 3 existing schools have unique identities, whether that's STEM-based, environmentally based. We want to maintain that sort of character. When you think of a unified school, it's not about being big, it's about just coming together as a broader community. So when we design schools that are this size, and we have one in Johnston going up right now, it's about how to break down a scale of that building so each school or each community is still represented. Traditionally, what you would see is what's called a finger-based scheme, which is, you can see the fingers that come down towards the bottom of the screen. There's usually a unifying spine where, for instance, in this particular diagram, buses would probably drop off on the right-hand side of that screen. Parents would drop off on the left. And we really do not like buses and parents' cars to cross. So you really organize the site so that doesn't happen. CALA has a separate drop-off potentially. Some of your more inclusive classrooms could also have separate drop-offs, so your students can arrive with dignity at the times they need to for the kinds of support and services they need. You get the benefit of combining 3 schools. You don't need 3 gyms. The gym would have to get bigger, but you don't need 3 of them. You don't need 3 cafeterias. You don't need 3 kitchens. You're able to be more efficient in the resource allocation towards the square foot of a structure that you provide. It's a really interesting diagram. Okay, Gina.
So the interesting thing about a unified school is that when I first became superintendent, that was the plan that I came into with when Ryan Callahan was the chair, Craig Luzon was on the building committee, Gregory Zenyan, and they were looking at a unified opportunity. We didn't get to the end part of that because, as we know, COVID happened and there was a lot of confusion around that. But one of the things I'm going to ask is for you all to sort of put your opinions just out to the side a little and really just take in the information, because one of the things I think I've noticed in Charahoe for the 6 years that I've been here is sometimes things divide us, but I really believe that more unites us. I do believe that when I spoke with Dr. Callahan at the time and now Chair Dinsmore, that a unified school may be an opportunity for us to think differently about educational opportunities. So think about your child now, and then they may need a specific need. Right now, we're busing kids to different schools, but that may have to leave their siblings. They may have to leave where their friends are, and that's hard to determine. But if we think about it in a way that we'll have all of our teachers, all of our staff in one place, the design, if you don't like this design, this is not our design. This is an example. That's where, in October, if the school committee decides on something like this, you have to hold myself and the school committee accountable to being intentional. I can show you data of schools that are this size that have great achievement results when it's intentionally designed. So I tried to think about when I first came and what were the concerns. So if I understand the concerns, we can probably talk through that to come to a collaboration if this is the design the community wants. But I want people to think, look, what are you worried about? Are you worried about that our youngest learners are in with 4th graders, possibly 5th graders? That's why we would design the buildings so that their paths don't really cross. Those of you that went to the middle school, our middle schoolers kind of live in their own little hallways, and 7th and 8th grade don't connect with 5th and 6th often, because we understand that sometimes it's different maturity level. So those are the things. Really ask yourself, what would I be concerned about if this was the plan, and how do I come into an agreement where, because what I know is, and you heard Ms. Sheehan say it earlier, people are concerned about their tax dollars. That's a real thing. Nobody wants taxes to go up. We don't want to. We want to do that. Do you want 2 boilers or 8 boilers? Do you want 3 gyms or 1? You may want 3, but just think about the opportunities and really just kind of note down, what would I be concerned about, the pros and cons? Because there's no bad way, but if money is always going to be a concern, we may want to think about our resources in one place so that we can really maximize our opportunities for students' instruction and our educators.
Yeah. Oh, it got cut off by the logo. Sometimes our logo moves in some of these presentations. It has a mind of its own. When you look at a school like this, you tend to break the grades down. So when you think of those fingers, they're 2 stories. We feel your community really shouldn't have a 3-story school. 2 stories feels about right, given the scale and sensitivity of the landscape, the architecture around. All of these are based around the pink color objects are learning communities. Those are, think of Da Vinci spaces, STEM, art, music, where you can, instead of having the child move to that location to have that access to that, you bring that activity to the child. So it creates a better community of learners for that 4th grade or 5th grade or whatever grade that might be together. It also allows you to have expandability. I know you have a bubble, I think, of 2nd graders. I think it's second graders that are moving through right now. If you have independent schools, you have to manage that through busing because you only have so many classrooms in each of your 3 schools currently. This would allow you, if you had less first graders, you could have some overflow classroom space. It just accommodates, makes it easier that over time. This does have a partial second level, which would have typically the upper grades, and there's all sorts of paired grades. You could look at pairing 1 and 2 or 3 and 4. There's lots of different ways, and we'd want to work with Gina and your educators as to what the right way to pair grades effectively for team teaching, because we know there are oftentimes children are at first grade or at a second grade level, so you have an opportunity to sort of team teach and have that child experience some opportunities in a second grade classroom. I'm going to show an image of what it could look like conceptually. This is a site that doesn't exist. This is a building that only exists in my mind in a computer right now. So please be gentle. What we look to do is some of the architectural clues we developed with you the last time, we've brought those forward and applied them to each of the schemes. We did that because we wanted the cost to be comparative. I didn't want to gild one and not be fair to the other. So I used similar architectural materials, similar style, so costing would be comparative between each option conceptually. And we do show costs at the bottom of these, and I'll get to that later in the presentation. That's a construction cost. That's today's dollars, what it would be to have somebody install the bricks and mortar, the mechanical systems to get the building operational. There are other costs that go with that. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but we wanted to compare. It's easier for us to say construction dollars versus construction dollars because each opportunity has different things. You might have to acquire a site. You might have remediation in an existing school if you're going to renovate it. Option 2, which was, I'll say, a very unique and difficult challenge, honestly. When you think about the existing schools and trying to bring them up to RIDE standards, because RIDE would require renovate to new. If we don't meet that threshold, they don't contribute. And we've dealt with that in a lot of districts in the past and have had a lot of hard conversations to really understand it's not just about changing a roof and replacing a window. The ed spec can't be applied to that building. What are you going to do? They're very cutthroat about it with us, particularly as architects. So when we looked, I'll show each of the opportunities. Each is fundamentally a little bit different. The sites are very unique. There's a lot of topography in some, ledge in others, wetlands around. So they're unique things to deal with. So when we look at Ashaway, we kind of did our study of existing building. It is a mostly two-story scheme sitting on a site. What we decided to do, we needed to take something down to provide more space to add back something. It doesn't really have a gym that's appropriate size. The cafeteria would be undersized. The kitchen is woefully inadequate for the student population that would be in that facility in the future. The average classroom size was about 565 square feet in this case. So it was really difficult to sort of take a look at that and say, well, we can just sort of change the windows, change the paint and the carpet, and that's going to work with RIDE. So when we knocked down a component, we took down a single-story underperforming component, and we decided to add back more significant architecture to keep it in parity with everything else. So, yes, please.
I just want to ask the members of the school committee, as they're going through the slides, it's going to be challenging for us when we go back up to the stage and ask questions, that if you have questions on each option, write down your questions now so we can try to organize our questions as efficiently as possible. So if you have any questions about the unified school, write those down now, and now he's going through the additions and renovations.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a good point. And my memory is not that good. So when we look at the site opportunities, the things about these interesting sites, they are narrower to the street and deeper. We have to have leach fields. You don't have town septic. We have to look at these sites and make sure that we can make sure that there's enough site left for those components, even as you increase the size of the school. We were very careful in each of the schemes to make sure bus drop-off and parent drop-off was still separate. We wanted not to bias what we were designing. even though as architects we always have a bias. But you can sort of see we fill the site, we fill the front yard. It's a different character as you approach the building. But what we wanted to do as I get to the planning of this, we wanted to make sure it had the same size gym. Now this gym is striped the same size of regulation elementary school gym. The size of the gym is a little bit smaller than what the unified or regionalized school would have because of the number of kids that would be in there. We end up with one of the things that's very interesting and difficult to deal with in existing schools is safety and security, and visitors like me who come to a school will have to do a tour. How do I check in through a secure environment? The current schools do the best they can, but they're not equipped the way modern schools are with the technology and the cameras, the ballistic glazing, all the things that we have to do to keep schools safe and sound. Things like the media center, the gym, in this case, the cafeteria is off in the back. We typically like to group those together, so after hours, you can lock the doors down to the classroom wing, and the community could use that if it's voting, or you're having a community social event, or a rec sports game going on in the gym. We still want to maintain that separation. And we definitely want to provide expanding learning opportunities, like the pink spaces in the previous scheme, so students and teachers can get outside of the classroom and do more group activities, team-based, project-based things in a Da Vinci space. This does have a second floor. We have to be very careful. One of the unique things about elementary school design, first graders typically cannot be on the second floor or above the first floor. If you do that, and I have done that in other districts, I have to provide dedicated stairs. So if you put a first grader on a second floor, they can't take the same egress stair as a third grader. It's an interesting quirk. They could be in the same house or high-rise building together and take the same stairs, but not in school. Getting the flex spaces, the Da Vinci spaces, keeping some of the existing building. You can see the aspect ratio of the second grade classrooms on the top of the screen. Not very deep, great for natural light, but very long. So the students are really spread out through the space. So doing the kinds of activities that modern teaching necessitates is a little bit more difficult. We would prefer classrooms in the addition that are a little bit towards square, not perfectly square, but not that long, narrow aspect ratio. Now that long, narrow aspect ratio works great for a pre-K or kindergarten classroom, just not for the other grades so well. Again, a little different character than the cow wall panel and sort of the gray stucco and things that are there today. Each of these schemes, even the additions, can be very beautiful. There's a lot of interesting architecture. The sites are just very tight. So circulation, parking, it's hard to make it idealized, but it does work. So if we look at Charlestown, and this is where I might get in trouble. So as we looked at that plan as a mostly single story, there's some ramps and some other idiosyncrasies about that building. And somebody did mention accessibility. I believe you mentioned accessibility. We took a long, good, hard look at how children or faculty, teachers, or administrators who might be in a wheelchair or might just have hurt their leg and be in crutches and need to get around a building. The buildings aren't so great for that activity right now. They meet standards mostly, but in some cases they don't. So we would need to fix that. So we took a look at this building and decided, wow, that site's really tight. There's a big hill almost towards the mountain in the back, so we really can't go behind there. So we made a difficult decision of knocking down what's in the red box to the left, because we needed to clear enough site to add enough square footage. As a single-story building, the renovate to new with additions average about 50 to 55,000 gross square feet per building. That's what a modern ed spec would be. When you consider what's there today, these are a little bit bigger. The sites aren't any bigger. Gross square feet, the building size overall. Call it 55,000 gross square feet. And that's all dictated by the ed spec and RIDE standards. That's not something we just make up. I wish it was, because then we could cut it. As we look at this site, it's a unique site. There is some topography that makes it a little bit challenging, but in keeping the L-shaped bar that's in the dark gray crosshatch and adding the light gray piece, this is the site that gets all of the pre-K. So that's a lot of pre-K classrooms, which typically are bigger. They tend to be 1,000 square feet versus the 900 because they have a dedicated bathroom as part of them. Because you really can't take that young child down the corridor in an elementary school to another bathroom. They have to be in the room. We're able to get parent drop-off and bus drop-off. This is the most constricted of sites because of that corner. We'd have to work to make sure that the visibility as buses or parents pull out would work, but we think it could work. But it does have some challenges. When we look at the planning for this particular opportunity, you could see it more than doubles in size. Again, it's a single-story scheme because there was not enough room for me to go vertical and get an elevator and 2 egress stairs and all the things that we would have to do in this. So we have a pre-K kindergarten wing, so think of early education. You could lock that wing down. They have their own Da Vinci space for their movement space or their extracurriculars. Each of the schemes does have some flex classroom space. That was something we explored before. The unified scheme, the 3 new, the renovate to new with additions. Because we know there's, like your second graders, as I mentioned before, there's going to be times when you have more students just because there could be another baby boom, there's a housing development that happens, and more kids move in. We need to be able to accommodate that. The nice thing about the way we've done that addition in the front door, all of the administrative suites have that sort of safe and secure person lock as you come in. You're buzzed in, you're in sort of a ballistics rated space. You can't get into the rest of the school unless you're escorted. You can't get into school without going into the lobby space of the office first. So there's a secondary way that we work that. So we really work the security as best we can. As you come in through the main door, we have the cafeteria, the kitchen, we have a platform. Think of it like a stage for an elementary school where you could do a performance, things like that. That platform opens both to the gym and to the cafeteria, so you could use it for interesting events. You want an all-school assembly and kids sitting on little carpet mats in the cafeteria or in the gym. You can open up that the wall and have that platform be accessed. So it just gives you a lot of flexibility. Media center as well. A lot of the schools, even at the elementary school level, become community resources for after-hour educational events. We want to design that in to no matter which direction you go, because it just makes better community spaces. And this one, the gym component, cafeteria is the sort of red barn in the back. The media center is the glass to the left. The early childhood center is the barn, the white barn in the foreground. And under the canopy is the entrance to the school. The existing building is off behind this to the left, or to the right, my other left. And if I thought this one was challenging, Richmond was especially challenging. So one of the unique things about Richmond, it's a beautiful piece of architecture, but it's a split level scheme. You enter not at any floor, or you enter into a stair, and you have to go up or you go down. And that just creates an accessibility nightmare to deal with folks that may be mobility impaired or visually impaired. So as we started to look at this, and as you get behind the beautiful existing building, it was added on to over many, many years. So it has a bunch of different levels. There's ramps, there's stairs, and nothing lines up. So when you think about one of the way we as architects think about designing modern buildings or modern schools is we try to provide the most square footage in the smallest container we can, because that means it's less for you to heat, less windows to maintain, less roof to replace over the years. It's not about sprawl, it's about compaction and community and creating spaces that'll work together in a really efficient manner. So you're going to see a lot of red here. So when we looked at how to transition this site to the next 50 years, we looked at all the underperforming, inaccessible space in the back and said, we got to clear it out. We'll keep the historic front. We'll use that for its best, highest use, public visitations, administrative spaces. Some of the things that were there are pretty good. When we look at that site by clearing out, we think, look at the amount of red, that footprint. When we go and we sort of look at a modern interpretation of adding on and renovating in one shot versus over many years, we can do a more idealized, called a plus-shaped scheme, where the historic building is the crosshatch in the front. There's a little courtyard space, internal courtyard, that could be used for movement space, active play, or contemplation space, or It could be our garden space. There's a lot of elementary schools that are doing community or gardens or child-based gardens. Each of the wings, the ears on this, are different classroom grade sets. So you can figure out what you combine, whether it's first and second, third and fourth, all of those types of things. The main amenity spaces, which would be sort of a learning commons, Da Vinci space, gym, cafeteria, and media center, all sort of in that middle zone. Again, after hours, it may not enter through the front of the building, but you could come around and have access from the back as community for rec events, those types of things. It looks very simple, and I'm happy we're here at a very simple scheme, but it was very complex. And I will say there are compromises. Each of the renovations of additions do have some level of compromise that a new facility wouldn't. It doesn't mean they're subpar, but there are compromises, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But you can kind of see the planning that I mentioned. The amount of blue space, which is office space or administrative space. The purple-pink color spaces tend to be those multi-purpose expanded learning opportunities, again, central in the building, right near the courtyard, which I think is elegant. The gym, the cafeteria, the platform that has access both to the cafeteria and the gym, like the previous scheme. The lower level, we try to use for some flex classroom space and inclusive space. But again, getting to that lower level is a little bit difficult because there's multiple elevators required to make that happen. Elevators are not cheap. That's unfortunate. When we look at what this might look like in the site, this has more of the foreground, the existing school in place, and what's behind is the addition. So it kind of takes on a little bit character of something in the field behind the historic building. So the last of the things we looked at are something that we looked at before, but we brought them to today's standards. There are a few moving parts that we moved the pre-K from one building to another. We adjusted for some student counts based on the new NESDEC numbers, that 1,281 that we have to design to. And these should look very familiar. We think they're interesting uses on the site. They are about the same square footage, maybe a little bit bigger than the renovate to addition, just because some of the mechanical spaces we have to create. In the older buildings, we can sort of stick things on a roof. In the newer buildings, we can't really do that. And we have to meet a little different standard. But you can see sort of the idea here, everything that we talked about in all the previous schemes still happens here. You have that sort of community stuff to the right, which is great for the students, and you have the academic wing to the left. So after hours, you can lock that down. It's a short walk for any student to get to those specialty spaces. The Da Vinci space clustered around classroom spaces and teacher support spaces. So again, you're moving activities to where the children are instead of moving the children all the time to where the activities are, because it takes too long for them to settle. These schemes did have a second floor. Again, nothing above a second floor. And these were based on a model school, at least for that time. They don't all have to look alike. It's just made it easy at that point to sort of compare an apples to apples type of a comparison. They fit on a site each very differently. Each site is very unique and very different, very beautiful, but unique and different. But the planning is very similar. We add inclusive classrooms or CALA or pre-K are the real differences between each of the three options and where those services are provided. And we choose colors. You may hate the colors, I apologize. Colors are just colors, that's easy to change. You can see in Richmond, in this case, of the amount of pre-K classrooms, that's quite a, 6 pre-K classrooms is about a 6,000 to 8,000 square foot add to any of the facilities. That's a lot of space. And you also have to think about pre-K drop-offs, very different to hand off a pre-K child than it is even kindergarten or first grade. There's more of a direct handoff. So that flow on the site is quite different. You really want to create a separate zone for that. So the summary for conceptually where we are right now, we're showing some numbers in yellow. These are not our numbers. These are working with a cost estimator and working with Colliers to really look at what we could do given what RIDE wouldn't reimburse. and these are a range, because what we think is RIDE is going to look at a $15 boost in a square foot cost based on escalation that's happening. So by the time this goes in February, whichever option you choose, you're going to have the benefit of $15 additional per square foot from the state because of escalation values. They've been pretty good about that year over year. They've recognized the hardships for a lot of communities. Option one, which was the unified or regionalized elementary school. Yeah, so escalation in construction has kind of been all over the place. COVID, it was 10, 11%. Now we're down in the 2 to 3% range, but RIDE is still trying to play catch up because the state couldn't allocate enough money during those early pandemic times, or coming out of the pandemic times, when all the architects got to build again, all that pent up demand happened. So the state's been really good, but they can only do a little bit at a time. But when you think about $15 a square foot on 100,000 square feet, just as a number, that's a lot of money. That really adds up, and that means you get more, which I think is important. When we looked at the cost ranges, so the low range is today's dollars. The one on the right is what we expect RIDE to fund post-February. So when we look at the unified school, we're in that sort of call $87 to $90 million range, right? That's all the benefits of combining into one school. That doesn't account for bus operational efficiency, staffing efficiency, maintenance efficiency, the number of boilers, as somebody mentioned. That's just the construction dollars to get it in place and occupy it. When we look at option two, the renovations to additions, this is the really tricky one for us with RIDE, because they really stand on us and we have to certify that it's renovate to new. And for us, that's a sticky thing to do, that we have to say certain things. That construction range is, call it 89 to about 98.1. It is not cheap to renovate schools. You have to abate them if there's hazardous material. If we demo it, you have to do the same thing. If you decide to, you turn it back to each community and they sell it, they don't have to do that. But if we renovate to new, we have to tear it apart and put it back together to modern standards. It tends to be a little more time intensive because it's selective demo versus bringing a bulldozer in and sort of knocking it down. Not surprisingly, the most expensive option is 3 new schools on 3 sites. Think about it, 3 gyms, 3 boilers, 3 cafeterias. That's the construction side. Then you have your operational side to consider, the busing routes, the staffing, the maintenance of those facilities. So at least what we know right now, with the numbers that we've been able to calculate, and again, whichever option you choose, we'll continue to look at finding efficiencies where we can. But this is what we're seeing. This is what the numbers and our colleagues, our cost estimators, the CMs we know in the community are telling us in sort of trend lines. Construction manager, sorry. Yeah, we got a lot of great lingo. The thing that we also wanted to make sure you understood is I showed construction dollars. There are other monies that have to be put in for total project cost, right? That could be land acquisition, depending on a scheme. That could be remediation, full demo, or selected demo. All of those things are additive. The nice thing with RIDE and the way they do things now, the technology in FF&E, the furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So if you were to take a school building, turn it upside down and shake it out, anything that falls out would be FF&E. That's funded separately below the line. So that's not in that construction dollar. And RIDE is very generous. The state's very generous with that money. Same thing with technology. So video screens, projectors, computers, cameras, security systems, all that's in that technology number outside of the construction number. So it's very complex to really work through the numbers, and Holly's a miracle worker at that. But what we wanted to do is represent what we know today are construction dollars, to compare sort of apples to apples to apples, and have you sort of look at the opportunity and make informed decisions and ask informed questions based on that. And with that, we look forward to talking with each community very soon. I'll turn it back over to the School Building Committee.
I will reiterate what the chair said, that if our questions could start with the unified conception design, then the reno and additions, and then the three design, because we had a lot of conversations around the three school design the last time, but I know there's new people in the room that are interested. So that would probably be helpful for the school committee. I hope that you will invite your friends to our community meetings to get more input, because I do think that there's a unique opportunity that we have for the future of Charahoe. This presentation will be on the website. The reason why it's not there today is because the school committee is approving it tonight to make sure this is what they want to see at the next meeting.
I'll turn this around so I face you.
Yeah. Busting into those pickles.
Okay, so thank you, Mark. Thank you to your team from SLAM and Colliers. I know that that took a lot of work, time, energy, and effort from August 5th to September 23rd. You rose to the occasion and put together a great presentation, so thank you so much. So I think in the interest of efficiency and organization, I'm going to ask the school committee if they have any questions of Mark and his team on option 1 that you presented, which is the unified school. And then after that, if the members of the public have questions about the unified school, we'll take those, and then we'll go to the second option. Does that make sense, Jess?
What, can we start with like overarching questions, like high level, the whole
Sure.
presentation, maybe then just rather one option?
Okay, good suggestion. So does anyone from the school committee have any sort of broad overarching questions for Mark and his team? Jess?
Okay, so one thing that came up on the beginning of the presentation was how what the Jacobs report, and it had numbers from that, but how the stage 2 application really is what we use to determine next steps. In my opinion, I think it'd be better to highlight what stage 2 is.
Yeah.
I think the timeline does, but I think that information is more important than the numbers from 2017 and numbers or the stats that we don't have yet, which is really for state level discussions. Other questions were overall in the presentation, you had really nice header pages for each section, but then when you get into the section, the header at the top of Ashway Elementary School renovation is the same as Ashway new construction. So I'd like to see it say, renovation or new at the top of each page, because some people might share just one page to other people, and it would be good to have each page say what it is. And also page numbers, I think, would be really helpful. Sorry, I just want to make sure that I'm saying everything. Did I see what the reimbursement rate was, the 61% plus the 4%? Yeah, I said 61 plus 4.
Yeah.
So yes, that equals 65, thank you. But there's also a 5% bonus, the safety and security that was made permanent. I know we can't get that in addition to it, but could we ask for that instead of the 4%?
We can ask for anything, they're not giving it.
Right, okay.
But that doesn't mean that our General Assembly can't help us out if we try, but the writer said no. There is opportunities right now for, if I'm not saying this right, Holly, like efficiencies in like going green and environmental, but it is like you have to spend 75% of your budget on that, which is difficult to do. But I do think that if we all remember, the bonuses that were put in by the General Assembly, that means we could actually have conversations with our senators and reps about what bonuses I think and exploratory opportunities like for career and tech is something that we should get bonuses for. And I think that if our General Assembly puts legislation in, that others would be, especially if RIDE is looking for us to bring it to the middle school, we're talking about bringing exploratory opportunities to elementary. So those are the kinds of things that I think we would push with our own legislators because I think other districts are thinking about that, but they just haven't had the opportunity to maybe bring it as far as we have so far as a community.
And to build on that, if we brought that down to the elementary level with the conjunction of grade 5, hypothetically, we would create more open space in the middle school to bring it into the middle school as well.
Correct. And the other thing I think that's important to mention is that when you think about those spaces, like right now, if you have 3 schools, and listen, you could, and you should, I shared that with you last time, because that there is no bad way to do it, but knowing the cost is going to be more, one of the opportunities is you don't have to be at Charlestown to experience outdoor learning or Ashway to experience STEAM and Richmond Health and Wellness. Every child in Charahoe gets every opportunity and can try different things, which is not that we don't do it now in 3 schools, but the resources are difficult when you're trying to do it in 3 places versus 1. And knowing that budget is always a hot topic in our community, that's where my thinking is when we think about how we can unify and really bring more opportunities to Charahoe, not less.
To go back to that page with the stage 2, the start of the presentation, I think one of the, some of the confusion I anticipate is what a 5-year capital improvement plan really means. So it doesn't mean what do you do in the next 5 years, and then like you do another 5-year, even though that's what the law says. It says a 5-year capital improvement plan. I'd like to see more clarification on the fact that this is a plan that goes for the next 50 years. You did have some language about that, but you know, on the state, it has, you know, it describes it as a long-range plan, typically 5 years, which is work you can finish within 5 years, not just work that lasts for 5 years. So that's where I see like this confusion point that could happen. The capital improvement plan allows for systematic evaluation of all projects and schools at one time. It's a way to really plan for the future. I think that's something that we want to emphasize, that this is really a plan for the future. Then another big question I have is, how are we going to collect feedback at these presentations? Will there be a form as people leave? Is there a link to a Google form so that we can actually capture some of this data? And it's not just, oh, I heard someone say this or someone. I think it would be good to actually have it more systematically collected. I think that's, sorry, my notes are kind of around, but I think that's it for now. I did appreciate some of the little fixes I noticed in the draft that we got were all fixed today. Little things I noticed were all improved today, so I appreciate that. I know that you're working really hard.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Did anyone else have any overarching broad questions? Laura.
I'm just looking for clarification. So when you were talking about the $15 per square foot escalation, so what you're saying is that, so it sounds to me like RIDE or the state of Rhode Island was just lagging in that. So is it meaning that if construction had started, you know, let's just say this year, that this escalation that you're referring to, that the state wouldn't have actually been caught up to that yet, so we would have gotten less per square foot. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Hi, Holly Demers from Colliers, your OPM. There's a very specific formula that dictates how much you qualify for. So right now, for an elementary school, it's $564 a square foot. So if they decide to increase that in the fall, which sometimes they do, they didn't last year, but the year before, they were very generous. So we're anticipating that it would go up $15 a square foot. So whatever that math is, 564 plus the 15. Okay. It's a very specific formula. So it's the student times a certain amount of square footage per child. And then that tells you how big the school is. And then you multiply that by this number, which is the 564 right now. That's what you qualify for the construction in the original soft costs. So that's how the numbers, so then you're basically, that's why the number's dictated by RIDE, right? So
Gotcha.
It's different with the renovations because it's a renovation, but any new construction, that's how it's calculated.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thanks, Holly. Jess?
just to clarify on that, but that's not RIDE giving us money. That's
No.
them approving us asking for that amount of money
Exactly.
from our taxpayers that they would then reimburse.
That's what you
It's not just,
qualify
here's the
for.
money, right?
Exactly.
It's a formula to develop the quantity of money that we can ask for.
Yes.
repeatedly.
So actually, this is a good point too, because it came up in public comments about like projects not being on budget. That's inaccurate. So I think it's really important that people understand that what happens is, and I'll give you Newport as an example, they have a much lower enrollment now than when they were first planning. So what happens is RIDE only allows reimbursement for the kids that you currently have. So they're not going to let us say, oh, we want a gym for 2,000 people because we do. They'll say, sure, but we're not reimbursing you for that much square footage. We are reimbursing you for this much square footage. Barrington actually increased, the town council gave the Barrington schools more money because they wanted to make different spaces larger. Those are the kinds of things where RIDE, if you go on the RIDE website, they have like a point by point what you can have, the square footage. Kindergarten classrooms are different than fourth grade classrooms, that are different than ninth grade classrooms. So it's really important for people to understand that if you have a cost overrun, typically it's because there's a need that the district wants that's not reimbursable. And like Holly would say to me, like, you can do that, but they don't only reimburse you for this. So if there's things that community wants, then the school committee will decide, is that something that we want to invest in, yes or no? So that's where you got to be careful when you use terms like overrun or over budget, because that's not an accurate term to say. But if there's specific projects you're interested in, I'm happy to get more information, as I know Holly and Kathy both have projects that they can share as well.
So I have a question from, I guess I would say that this was a broad question from a design perspective. I've been in some new schools where the ceilings are extremely high, which that could lead to escalated costs in terms of heating and cooling. So how do you determine, and I'm not asking you to point to the slide 42, but how do you determine things like ceiling height for a building when you're mindful of construction costs and also operational costs?
Yeah. So it's a complex question. I can give a simple answer, then elaborate a little bit more. So RIDE has standards for ceiling heights in a classroom. 9'4" is minimum, they prefer 10. So we start at 10 and we work together and try to hold 10. Most times we end up at 9'4" because of structural beams and running ductwork through or piping through a building. That's the sort of typical classroom space. When we get to sort of cafeterias or gyms have a requirement of 23 square feet clear, right? So you can play volleyball in there and the basketball won't hit the structure. That's easy. Cafeterias, if you are going to use them for spaces like this and you have a platform that you need to open, acoustics dictate that. So we work with acoustic engineers and we design spaces purposely for ceiling height, understanding the modeling we do now with our engineering teams to model energy is very interesting. And I'll give you an example in Newport, and there's been lots of discussions about Newport, and it finally opened, and they love it. When we designed the skin of that building, we did what's called a frit, which is a pattern on the glass that reflects daylight. It rejects heat, and it keeps the heat within the building. It rejects the sunlight. They got a rebate from the energy department of $500,000 for something that cost $100,000. So that's just getting into deeper dive engineering discussions with you and you making us work hard. You know, we're here to work hard for you as architects and design teams to really maximize the value. So ceiling heights are really dictated by program need, by acoustics, and RIDE in some cases.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Laura.
So the other general question I had was, as far as determining the space, you had mentioned that there's certain things that you have to factor into this. And if you already have 3 existing elementary schools, I mean, the cost differential, I would think, to having to purchase new land somewhere else, which type of things do you, like, are there known pieces about each of the existing locations where you guys would basically say, you know, we know that this area typically has a lot of ledge, because if you hit ledge when you're trying to do a project, that's a huge unforeseen cost. So how do you determine factors like that?
Yeah, so in stage 2, we will have some exploratory work with our civil and engineering team. So whatever option is chosen, there'll be boots on the ground sites doing some testing of that. We
like
also need
test
to
holes.
test environmentally the conditions of the soil as well.
Thanks.
Okay, so seeing no other hands up for broad questions, let's move on to the unified elementary school option. And I don't know if the members of our committee, I'm sorry, I did not ask the community if they had any broad overarching questions. Sir, would you like to come up to the microphone? Please tell us who you are and what town you're from. Thank you.
Simon Manlove, Town of Hopkinton. While we're talking about the presentation that's going to be sent out to the public and put publicly on the school website for people to look at the options going forward, I would just make the suggestion that I believe that the presentation needs a little bit of stronger language stating that as you presented today, the costs in there are construction costs. That does, as you put very well, that does not include any of the other soft costs of that. I think that that should be emphasized stronger so that we do not have in the future people coming up to us and trying to say, the total cost was this, you put it in the presentation, when that we know now that that was not the total cost.
Thanks, Mr. Manlove. Probably have to do that right up front.
Good job.
Good, yes. Any other broad overarching questions from the community? Tracy, would you like to come up and state your name and your town of residence, please?
Hi, Tracy Sylvia Richmond. I have a couple general questions, and I'm not sure if they're to you or to you. I guess 3 different areas, but at what stage in this entire process do things like bonuses for LEED or LID or other environmental design criteria come into play, as well as when do we compare the costs for things like remediation, wetland, septic problems, and as well, when do we compare busing costs? 3 new schools, 1 school, different routes. Also, in the presentations for the towns, are each of those to be repeated pretty much tonight's presentation? Or is each town specific to those schools? Can the public go to all 3 and provide comment? And then lastly, I am concerned with the current federal funding changes that change every day and how any of that may impact rides reimbursement abilities in the future.
That was a lot of questions. I just
Trace.
want to make sure if just stay right there.
Give us your first question first.
Make sure, yes. Yeah, start at the first one.
Excellent. Where do these other cost factors come into, whether they're bonuses for things like environmental design? We just got that environmental design award for this.
I know, I wish we were going to get,
district.
yes.
I work in environmental sciences, so those things are things that I would love our CTC to keep working on. It would be great if we could role model things like that, stormwater and all sorts of stuff. And then the busing and other
So let's start with the bonuses and busing.
construction issues.
So bonuses come with, so our stage 2 application, basically the architects they have and it's on the RIDE website, they have the criteria that we have to meet. And then RIDE will share. I know, Holly has a better input about the 75% of our cost project would have to be environmentally approved, which is no easy, no. Oh, that's security. I'm sorry. I'm going to give that to Holly. Go ahead. Give it to Holly so we can do one question at a time. Thank you, Holly. Security is 75%. So that's a Jess question.
There are 2 other bonuses. One is security, but the whole project has to be 75% of the cost has to be security. So it would be like if you were doing the security in your high school, but only security. So the other one is the net zero. It's really, and part of the problem with that one is they're great program, but it's very expensive to do it to the school. So in order to get the bonuses, you have to have a very specific design that's very expensive. So it's weighing that as to whether it's cost effective or not.
So in the process, after the October meeting, the school committee decides which option, based on the community feedback, that we will begin working with RIDE, Colliers, and SLAM to determine which bonuses and what we would have to do to be able to meet those bonus requirements. And then they let us know based on the review of the application submitted in February for approval in May, June. So the transportation, we're doing that now. So that's something we have to do always, each year. So for example, Mr. Zenian is putting out our transportation routes. School Building Authority, Mario Carino, has offered the state resources to be able to review all districts' routes, which I think is great, because it really looks at, because remember, our bus company, it's a vendor, so you want to make sure you're getting efficiencies out of those routes. And I think they do a good job, but sometimes a neutral eye can come in and say, well, how come this? Because when the state went in to reviewed, for example, Providence, they were able to take 7 buses off the road. Cumberland took off 1. But even 1 bus is money back into the educational resources for kids. So that's going to happen, part of this work. What was the third one? No, because we would need to have...
The question was, will that occur before the October vote decision?
So it depends on the model. So like we know right now, we have an idea of the 3 schools, right? So we already do that. So one unified school is similar to the main campus. So we would run basically the same locations. But I think what's important to remember, which probably I didn't say, was these schools, we're anticipating the bond for November because we have to get all of that done, and that takes time. So by the time the voters vote on it, November of 2026, then you're looking at like shovels in the ground, 2027. So really a school, any of the options wouldn't be done until 2029. So things change. So what I say today may not look different 5 years from now, but it's based on our current registrations, and we look at that for enrollment.
Tracy, do you need the microphone for other questions? Thank you.
Sure, sorry. And then I guess the bigger question too is which presentations are going to be at each town, and
The same presentation. So whatever, like for example, remember Purcell gave feedback. So as they give feedback of what Ms. Chapman, they'll fine tune it. And every school, you don't have to be a Richmond parent. You can go to Charlestown, whichever date works for you. It's the same presentation. The questions may be different because I can't tell you what they're going to ask.
will you have I just added this one, will you have an FAQ on the website like the last time?
Yes.
That was excellent. And then again, once these are locked in, again, we don't know what the federal budgets are looking like, but is this pretty much guaranteed through RIDE, or is this dependent on federal funding going to RIDE to reimburse these things?
No, this is based on the state dollars.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Great questions.
Thank you.
Jess?
Can I just share what Mario Carino said with us at the Necessity for School Construction Subcommittee?
Sure.
Because that question came up. You know, people are worried that if we go into an agreement with RIDE and they say they're going to reimburse us for the next 20 years, something will happen. But there are so many communities across the state that are locked into these deals, that have these agreements to improve their communities and their schools, that if the state ever tried to take away money, it would be such a huge issue that it would be very unpopular. So it's highly unlikely. And we have a wonderful track record here of getting RIDE reimbursement, and it's not a thing that happens across the state. So just to share from that was what he said at the meeting.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other hands raised from the community, we're going to ask the school committee members if they have any questions regarding the unified school option. Laura.
So for the unified school option, what happens, I assume that you're going from more of a commercial side for the mechanicals, from commercial size to industrial size, is that, no? So then how do you determine which things still have useful life? Like, for example, we just had 2 new boilers that were just ordered. So does that get moved to the new locations? Is it non-usable in that type of setting?
Boilers are tough because when you think about by the time, even picking a renovated school, by the time that school is complete, that boiler has another 5 years or 4 years on it. The new systems that RIDE is pushing in our engineering team that we promote tend to be less hydronic systems, and they tend to be more electrical. That's RIDE is heavy pushing that. There are components that come together, but we have to follow New England CHIPS, which is a standard for environmental design in schools. And that dictates air quality, energy usage, water usage, conservation, all those types of things. And that's part of what we have to work with RIDE and our engineering team on. When it comes to commercial versus industrial, industrial tend to be systems that are, I'll say, low on human comfort and more on, think of like an Amazon warehouse, that kind of thing. That's an industrial system. When we look at a commercial-based system, it's for human occupants, right? And when we look in elementary schools, you know, not everybody's 6'3" like me. Some of the kids are little. So we think about systems where air distribution is different. So their comfort level is different, but it still works for a teacher. There's a lot of thought that goes into those that are low energy use, low water use, that will work well for you, be easy to maintain. Because some of the districts have chose systems that are just impossible for their techs to maintain. We don't want to do that.
Right, that's what I was concerned with.
Yeah.
Chair?
Yes.
I would just remind the committee that if we go with a unified school, we will be returning the schools to the towns. I don't think they would appreciate if we return a school without a boiler.
I don't think we would do that.
She didn't suggest it, she just was asking a question.
Yeah.
Hypothetically.
So, Laura, did you have any other questions about the unified?
No.
Okay, so if my notes are correct, Mark,
Yes.
on the floor plans for the unified school, was it on the second floor, it was second grade and fourth grade? So why second grade and fourth grade and not third and fourth?
So when you think about that plan, and I wish I could have it up, it's less about team teaching across that floor, and it's more about team teaching with the Da Vinci space that's below you. So you're really lengthening the grades vertically. Now you have the opportunity to do that horizontally as well. We just have shown it in ways that other communities have found it successful, but we'll work with you all to figure out what's the right educational delivery method and class placement within the building.
So that's really an institutional decision? Okay. All right. Gina, I'm sorry, Jess, go ahead. I just want to know if you had any other questions.
Yeah.
Or if any of the other school committee members have a question about unified.
Location's the biggest deal for me. I know that that's something a lot of folks that live in these three towns are interested in. You know, it's not like, you know, in Johnston, they're building one big school, but it's one town that's 26 square miles, and Charahoe is 126 square miles, and it's three towns. So, and I know that the necessity for school construction committee and the administration, and especially Mr. Zenyan, is looking at spaces, and I know that there's discussion about making sure it's centralized, a centralized location, but even that, you know, is not, there's kids that live on the border of their towns that have a long ride already. So that's just something I really want to have in our minds. I know there was a note in the presentation, but I think it's really important maybe to, you know, also mention the cost of purchasing that land. I don't think that's included in the construction cost, but that would be an additional soft cost to the unified school plan that does not apply to the other two options.
So Jessica,
Don't they redeem it?
So great point. So we, but a good note for us to make sure we do. The reimbursement is allowable on the land. So for example, you know, there are properties that were afforded opportunities when I first got here, when they were looking at the one unified school. But yes, we have a lot of land opportunities. It's just going to be about the centralized location. So if that's a concern for parents, one thing I want the committee to understand is that you can create policy. If you're worried about our little ones, you know, you want them not to have more than a 30-minute ride, a 45-minute. You can put that in policy. Now, yes, it increases your transportation costs, to my friend Simon Manlove, right? So those are the things that change how we do business. But if that's a concern, then that's something you could fix with policy.
And did you say, Gina, that there is a reimbursement on land acquisition costs through
Yes.
RIDE?
And just to be clear, RIDE allows, you have to get for the assessed value of the land. Nope.
We just would have to have an updated appraisal.
Updated appraisal. Thank you, Holly.
So what is that reimbursement? Is it the full price of the appraisal, or is it a percentage of the appraisal?
It runs like the rest of the project. So
The
it would be
61% plus the
Okay.
regional, yeah.
It runs like the rest of the project, 61%, okay. Laura?
Just a follow-up question on that. Is that when you're talking about the single school, how big of a piece of land are you referring to?
Yeah, I think we would, based on RIDE metrics, anywhere from, we'll say, 27 to 33 acres.
Okay.
But that is somewhat if it's a long linear piece versus a square piece, it's quite different, right?
Right.
So I think we would need to, if that option was chosen, look at the land opportunities that are available with you all and sort of scale the footprint appropriately. So, just because if it's 20 acres, it still probably fits, right? But we have to, what we're trying to do in these presentations is use the RIDE governance and the RIDE facts that allow us to move sort of it forward, and conceptually. Everything else becomes a little bit different once you choose something.
Actually, that's a good point, Mark, to clarify. So again, that conceptual idea. So even what we see, whatever the committee decides in October, and what we move forward to RIDE Stage 2, we can make adjustments. We have to show RIDE that we have a facilities problem, which they know because they have those reports. That's Stage 1. Here's all the facility needs that we have. Stage 2 is, this is an example that we can make it work, and then we present that. But if there's a shift, let's say, at the school, we didn't like the colors. We want this room to be differently placed, and that all can happen. The one thing I think that was confusing last time was, for example, these individual spaces. Schools, right now, so it's ad hoc, we pop people into different places, but confidential office spaces. RIDE is very specific about who can have those spaces. So you just can't create an office unless you're gonna pay full amount of money for it with no reimbursement. They'll allow confidential spaces for nurses, school psychologists, administrators. So so not everybody goes, oh, I need an office. So the new designs are designed for much more integration and collaboration based on the RIDE standards. And that's all online and will be in our FAQ as well. Okay, Karen?
I just think we're going to get a lot of questions, but I think the number one question we're going to get with the unified is, where's it going?
And we would have to defer that to, I'm sure the administration is 3 steps ahead of us. And I have confidence that they're 3 steps ahead of us. And Greg, did you want to speak to that at all?
So there's quite a bit of parcels of land within a 2-mile range of this campus that fulfill the requirements for the unified building. It would be a matter of contacting landowners and seeing who's willing to sell, what they're willing to sell for. I would not recommend you start negotiating buying land publicly.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So can I just expand on that? And I don't know if this would be a Greg or Gina question, or both of you. Has anyone expressed an interest in discussing land options with us, as knowing that this was on the agenda tonight, and that we are looking at that as an option?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions from the committee? Polly?
It's probably going to be a little silly. The aesthetics of the school, I don't know about you guys, but these design aesthetics from the outside, I don't like, I'm sorry, I don't like them. They're very barn, square, plain. At what phase do we get to say, hey, maybe we want the entire facade of this building brick? Or, I mean, is that further down after
It's typically further down.
Stage
Yeah.
3, yes, stage
Yeah.
3.
Okay, so everybody bring those ideas to these meetings. When you look at these pictures, think of them visually as well as the space. And
So what we try to do in a stage 2 is provide enough material differentiation so you have money to play with. Because we want you to be able to make those decisions in stage 3, which is the next step after stage 2, where it becomes, we have to implement. And we have taken over so many stage 3s that were horribly planned in stage 2 because they tried to make it pretty versus follow the rules and get the money.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Is there anyone from the community that has any questions about the unified option before we move on? Yes, please come to the microphone. Samantha? Did you sneak in, Samantha? I didn't see you in the back.
I've been here the whole time.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for being
I
here.
didn't sign up for public forum. But I appreciate the conversation around location, because I know that's going to be a concern for everybody. And I understand that it's not the best negotiation strategy to have this conversation publicly. So I would want to know, at what point can the public know where the location will be? And at a minimum, will the school committee have a definitive deal solidified, secure, ready to go by the time the October meeting happens? Concerning that if we choose this path forward, we may not have an opportunity to switch to one of the other options, and we could just lose it all in something that could be prevented. So that's my question or concern.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Gina or Greg, do you want to take that one?
So we will not have a done deal in October. That would be quick. But what we would be in definitely negotiations, but not, it wouldn't be in our best interest to do that until I knew what the school committee and community said, right? So once the October meeting happens, it's hard to say, because I mean, I can just go back 6 years from what the land opportunities that we had when I first got here, and many of them still exist. I think, we had somebody walk into the building committee meeting offering up their land. So it's not necessarily, we're not short on land around here, but I do understand the need. But with RIDE, we have to have a letter of intent. The Charahoe Act allows the opportunities for the school committee to have all kinds of options. But in the application, they're going to want to know that we have a deal, even if it's not completely done, that it's negotiated at a certain point, so they come in at that stage. But October would be fast. But I get it.
We also have to negotiate a deal with a landowner that understands that if the bond is not approved, we are not purchasing the land. So it's not as simple as just buying a piece of land, because if the bond's not approved, I don't think Charahoe wants to own, 40 to 60 acres.
Mr. Avedisian?
Yes, again, I'm stuck on the land, and I'm looking at the three-town politics. So I'm wondering if we are considering all our options and not necessarily thinking about putting it in the town of Richmond. Not that, if it worked out fine, but I think that politically, my personal opinion is that if it goes in Richmond, it's one unified school, the odds have diminished that it would be passed in all three towns.
Can you,
Yeah.
Mr. Avedisian, can you just share more, because that's an interesting, that could be something that holds up the process, and I want to make sure that I understand the concern. So is it that, for example, let's say it's around the main campus, which is Richmond, could be Charlestown, depending on where you land, but are you saying that because it's in one town, that it's unlikely that voters from whichever town it's not landing in would vote no? Is that, I'm not sure I understand it.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I can be specific if you'd like. I mean,
Sure, the more specific you can be, the better.
I know past history, and this is going back a long ways, but Charlestown did many years ago try to withdraw, and I know that there was sentiments within the Charlestown community that they were uncomfortable with all of the schools being located in Richmond.
Do you know why?
Yeah, because periodically the town of Hopkinton, specifically, mostly, will express the idea of a taxing district. And what that would spell for the town of Charlestown is an equalized tax rate across the three towns, which would substantially put the burden of the schools on the taxpayers of Charlestown. So I just think that there is there's a very significant group within the town that will consider that when we're talking about a unified school in I think more at Richmond because the main campus is in Richmond, but you know, I don't know, maybe they'd be comfortable with it in Hopkinton. I mean, but I don't know. I can hear it already.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Luzon?
To elaborate what Mr. Avedisian was alluding to,
Craig, right into your microphone.
to elaborate, sorry, isn't
Now we can.
what Mr. Avedisian was alluding to is it goes back decades. Yes, Charlestown was threatened with various things such as equalized taxation, a taxing district, so on and so forth. If you compare the three towns' grand lists, and even though it was done like 25 years ago, I think the percentages are somewhat similar. Charlestown's grand list is considerably greater than the other two towns combined. And therefore, Charlestown would pay out of its property towards this, the operation here, anywhere from 50 to 65% of the total budget because we're more valuable. And that just would be devastating to Charlestown. You know, maybe we can come to a political agreement where we wouldn't go in that direction. And that would ease the concerns of one community. And I know I've talked to some taxpayers, and they also, kind of a roundabout way, what Mr. Avedisian was saying, but they want something tangible in their town also.
Okay.
You know, they want a building.
Okay. Jess, I think you had your hand up, and then Laura. You good? Okay. Laura?
So my question is, if you, sorry, so if you look at the three elementary schools, based on your presentation, my feedback from you was that out of all three of the schools, it sounded like Richmond was actually had some more benefits to it from your perspective, just, you know, maybe it was aesthetically or however you said there was some good stuff there. So I'm curious if Ashaway Elementary School is definitely the smallest school. Does it make sense, you know, or is it even possible to look at it as maybe there being a school in Charlestown and a school in Richmond? And
So Chair.
That wasn't part of our options. So
Okay, that's
two
what I
schools was not what we charged SLAM with. We charged SLAM with three options and two new elementary schools or two renovations was not part of that agreement that we signed. Correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
I mean, you can have as many options as you would like to pay for, but options cost money. And take time. So, you know, we can play the 2 schools, 3 schools, 4 schools. How about we make the middle school into an elementary school and build a new middle school? I mean, the options are endless, but you have to pay for them.
Thank you for reminding us. Okay. Seeing no more hands and none other from the public, can we move on now to the renovation / addition option for the 3 elementary schools? So Karen had her hand raised first. Karen, your question?
So in the presentation, you mentioned that 900 square feet is the recommended for a classroom space. If we did renovations, is that possible?
It is, but it does mean more demo. So say there's 2 classrooms next to each other, or 3 that are 500, and that's 1,500. I'd have to take 2 walls down, subdivide it in half, and I'd get close. RIDE's pretty good about saying, okay, we'll let you go to 850 if you take that 50 net square feet that you didn't put in the classroom and you put it in an expanded learning environment. But they won't let you off the hook unless you do something like that. They want to see the square footage in the building somewhere, so it benefits the student.
Okay.
Did you have a follow-up, Karen?
I have a second question. So I noticed in the Richmond, you're still considering using the downstairs. I'm concerned about the lack of windows in the basement area.
That's a good concern. So New England CHIPS has, different than LEED, which is USGBC, but they're similar. There's daylight and view criteria. So daylight is one, access to natural light. View is another. I have to look out. So the percentage of openings that we have to follow in the lower level probably doesn't meet that. So we would have to either blow away more brick that's there, dig up more ground and put bigger windows in. You also have some of that's below ground. And there's a lot of theory that maybe that's not so great in terms of insulation, moisture, those types of things.
So I have a follow-up to Karen's question about the window issue in the base and the lower level. So when you said we'd have to demo more brick, was that accounted for in the projections of 29.4 million to 32.1 million?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
great.
assumed I had to.
That's why you're the architect.
Yes. So we've been through enough old schools to know that there's no insulation. You know, when we go to make a modern school, we study where dew point happens in the wall, which is moisture, which leads to mold. So we have to take what's there and really run it through some computer modeling and figure out, okay, the dew point can't exist here. I have to do something different, insulate, change the heating system, provide more ventilation through it so it dries the space out. All those things get factored in. That's not very cheap to do. And subterranean spaces are more difficult. We don't know if there's a water table issue, right? We've heard that some of the classrooms have had some water table issues. That could be hydrostatic pressure pushing up from below grade water on the slab. If that's an existing building, that's horrible because remediation is to rip the slab out and start over. So you start losing the benefit of the existing facility very quickly depending upon the environmental conditions that we find.
Karen?
It was brought up the possibility of moving the 5th grade back, and you may not know this answer. If we do renovation and add, is that still a possibility?
It's difficult.
It's unlikely to be able to do that in 3 schools to the, because it would cost, you'd have to increase that cost because you're going to increase your square footage.
Correct.
In the site
I just wanted to make
capacity.
it clear that that's that. Come on.
Right, that would
That
be-
was an
yeah.
earlier conversation. I didn't
If
want
that's
people
something
to
the committee wants to do, the best option would be the unified.
Unified, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Laura?
So the amount that when you did these preliminary plans, they're for housing, how many for each of them? If you're doing it based off of the new schools?
Yeah, so the easy way to think about it is the 1,281 divided by 3, but it's not that simple because the CALA program has a certain number, pre-K has a certain number because there's more of them, and the inclusive classroom. But we try to make it even because the site capacities are really what's dictating it. How many parking spaces that we have to for staff and parents and visitors and bus drop-off and making all that work. It tends to be pretty equal across the 3.
Because I remember there was, Gina, I think there was reports or something online. I remember from back when the other bond was there, where it had the number of students for each school could potentially have within that particular school.
So the last designs, they all had parity. So every school had the same amount of students when we did this last time. Because they're going to because they're not going to let us have Ashby only has 2 tracks, but everybody else has 4 or 3 or 5. So when you create the parity, they want to ensure that all of our schools have the same, what they call, help me out, what's the term they use? The grade span? No, that's not it. It's because it's getting late and I'm getting tired. But I'll think of the word, Laura. I'll get it.
Okay.
Jess?
There was mention of the swing space in the presentation, but the big difference that has occurred since the last time we had this discussion is that the swing space we have in district is no longer readily available because Hope Valley School has been closed and the furniture has been moved out.
Yeah.
So there's not a readily available swing space for the reno and addition options or the new school options. And I just want to make sure that is said out loud.
And that's something we would have to tell RIDE about. Right?
And that has to be a soft cost. That would be in addition to these prices.
That's a great point. So in that case, while one school was being demoed or renovated, we would have to find a place for those students to learn.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for bringing that up, Jess. That's a really good point. All right. Any other questions from the committee? Any questions from the community? Please step up and say your name and the town where you're from.
Randy Beaver from Hopkinton. In the renovation scenario, would the cost of operations would you be putting in new boilers? Would the cost of operation be similar between the renovated facilities and the new construction option? So between 2 and 3, would you be looking at roughly similar, annual cost to operate the buildings?
It would be close. The difference would be in the renovation to addition, there's more skin area. So I might have more air changes, bigger air handlers to operate. The skin would be high performance, the same amount of insulation, all that type of stuff. But because I'm keeping some single-story existing building, it spreads out a little bit.
Mark, did you say skin?
Yeah, so facade. So again, I'm using outside walls. Yeah.
Got it. I was like, oh,
So,
okay.
it's getting late.
That must be an architectural term. All right, any other questions from the community? Okay, moving on to 3 new elementary schools. Do the members of the school committee have any questions about 3 new elementary schools? Seeing no hands raised from the school committee, do any members of the community have any questions about 3 new elementary schools? Okay. Well, thank you very much for your presentation, for your, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Avedisian?
I guess my question again would be, where are we going to house, what if we're building 3 elementary schools? We're going to need 3 new sites.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Yeah.
Did you say, Greg, Mr. Avedisian, did you say 3 new studies?
Sites.
Oh, sites, okay.
So we would probably do 1 at a time. So you'd have to house the students in one of the schools. You would typically pick the smallest school to ease the burden on finding a place for those students. And then once you started that construction process, you have to be complete in 5 years, but you could manage that.
So,
We have to be done in 5 years, so.
Mark, if we were to find a swing space that could accommodate 2 schools,
Even better.
Start 2 at once, right?
Yeah.
And that would be recommended.
Absolutely. The more quickly you can do construction, the cheaper it's going to be.
Okay, and we would have to add that into our budget projections for those latter fiscal years? Okay. Holly, did you have a comment that you wanted to share? Oh, okay.
I love his optimism. Realistically, you would have to do 2 and 1 or 1 and 2. You would run out of time to do 3 consecutive new construction buildings. You could do 2 at once. So either 2 swing space or 1 large swing space.
Thank you. Mr. Avedisian, did you have another follow-up?
Yeah, so swing space, I mean, are we talking potentially trailers like we had before, or are you, I mean?
So the last time, like I said, we did have, we had sites in South Kingstown right across the line from Charlestown, as well as, and some of them don't exist anymore because now they have utilized them and knocked some of them down for field opportunities. But with 3 sites, what you would have to be thinking about is typically which one you do first so that you can manage. So Richmond's the largest population, so that's going to be the most difficult one to move, then Charlestown and Ashaway. So starting with Ashaway is probably your best bet because you have less students to move, and then you move all of those students back, but now they actually fit more students at Ashaway than they do because now you've created that parity. So it's not easy. And as a parent, you can do it because my little one went to swing spaces. She had 3 elementary schools in her time in her school because she had the old school, the swing space, and then went into a new school. So it can be done. It's just, it provides disruption, and it also provides a cost that doesn't go into your new buildings.
Thank you for clarifying that. Mr. Luzon?
Yeah, I got a question for Gina, and then I got just a blanket statement. Gina, the $2,100 per student and the $3,000, or the $5,100 per student, comes out to $6.5 million. Do we pay 35% of that, or how does that work?
So that's a great question. So it's the same thing. So we pay, I believe we get the whole thing, correct, Holly? That amount is per pupil.
Yes, you qualify for that whole thing, and the reimbursement is the same. So it's 64 here, and it's like the 65% back.
So if you, that actually, a great point about that is that if we would have to invest in updating furniture and things like that, that cost is included in technology because you're building your school. So all of those costs become decreased when you're looking at your operating budget, because now instead of us planning for those new, we're going to get more money from RIDE for building like new or new, and that allows us the opportunity to take that away from the operating budget, because you're going to see it on that end of the construction. It'll be there. The other thing too is your furniture opportunities come in, because now you're placing all that furniture, 1 versus 3. You know, one of the things I think, you know, and again, from the outsider sometimes, I think when I first came here, you know, Ryan Callahan said to me, do you think one school is a good idea? I said, I think that depends on your community, but it has a lot of opportunity. But I know that the biggest worries as a parent typically are the size being overwhelming. So the spaces have to be intentional. It's being about, you know, you still want high achieving, you still want high opportunities, and that exists. But in the end, the opportunities with the new technology, think about just the unification of a resource. So then, you know, when you have a social worker who's split between two schools sometimes, you don't have to worry about that travel expense. You're not worrying about sometimes finding, instead of having a floating sub at every school, you may only need, you know, need 2 out of the 3. So things like that. But what you're saying about the technology and the furniture, like we have young chargers, everybody's a charger. It allows for an opportunity for us to think about maybe this is the precipice that gets Charahoe really united as not the Charlestown, not the Richmond, not the Hopkinton, but, you know, we're all going to the same school. We're all the same team.
Craig, you had a statement?
And, hey, folks, committee, we're crossing the Rubicon now. All right? So going forward, I hope we don't resort to what we did in the past, and that we're, you know what? I know I'm leaning towards one, but if I'm the only one leaning towards that, I will gladly join the rest of you to promote whatever we decide as a group. But we all have to promote it.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Thank you. Well, thank you to the team from SLAM and Colliers. I know we all know and recognize how hard you worked, your entire team. So thank you for your expertise and for your thorough presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for those that came out. I appreciate the feedback.
And I also just want to mention that they are the upcoming community meetings. Richmond Elementary School meeting will take place on Monday, September 29th at 5:30. Charlestown Elementary, Wednesday, October 1st. And Ashway Elementary on Monday, October 6th. Those are all at 5:30 p.m. And I'm planning to go to as many as I can, but I don't know, Gina, if we have to worry about a quorum at these meetings. So I think maybe we need to talk offline about that from the membership, making sure that we don't have more than 7 or 7 or more.
If there's an interest for more, we can always do it as a special meeting. Hopkinton did that when they came to our community meetings. The Old Town Council came and did it as a special. But I can talk offline with you about that. But maybe what we can do is sort of give an interest of who wants to attend, and see if we have more than 7, then we can do one as a special meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we are going to move on. Business 9C, approval. I'm sorry. Yes. Samantha. Thank you. Oh.
Well, they gave the feedback so that we could, so if somebody disagreed, right, not an official, right, it's more like they gave their feedback so that we can update the presentation, then we send it back out before the September 29th to make sure we captured everything.
All right, it's approved without a vote. Does nobody object to it? There's no approval.
Well, there's just feedback, right?
Yeah, tonight was about learning
But I
and getting
understand what you're saying.
feedback.
Technically, we want to make sure that this is what we want to send, but we'll do the updates. Yes, I understand what you're saying.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm moving on now to 9C, approval of RISAS Rhode Island Student Assistant Counseling Contract.
This typically happens in May, So don't get nervous when you see it again coming around in May. But right now, our counselors are not in our schools for this because we had to go back and forth. We had to make sure that the new legal requirements around confidentiality are followed. So we did our due diligence. They actually thanked us from RISAS because they got an attorney to make sure that they were doing their due diligence. Let's just say Charahoe leads the charge of making sure, we had the confidentiality around our student needs and making sure that we get reports on any concerns that happen. So I am recommending approval of the RISAS contract, which we do annually. Typically, it's in May.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Discussion among the members. Polly's hand is raised.
I need clarification on 8.3. There's an error in the wording.
So page 6?
It's on page 7, 6, 7. Yeah, it's
6, 7.
labeled 6, but it's on 7 where it says, through the term of this agreement, cyber insurance in the amount of, there's a 5, there's a 4. It looks like 54 million in aggregate.
So it's 4. So see the 5, I see what you're saying, but
Yeah,
no,
but-
that's just their insurance capability.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
Well, yeah.
So is it 4 million?
It should be, I believe it's 4.
See, that's why I had a problem.
Yeah, but I can double check. That's what they're on, making sure that they have their insurance.
Laura, and then, I'm sorry, Holly, Polly, did you have a follow-up?
Go ahead. No.
Polly?
We'll go back and forth.
My question was about the opt-in piece of it. It looks like from the way that the contract is outlined, it's showing that parents, you either, if you don't opt out of it, then you're automatically opted into the service. And I'm just wondering if there's a way to make it so that it's one that you actually have to opt in for it.
We would have to change the code of conduct because the code of conduct the school committee approved says that if a student violates has a substance abuse, that they work with this counselor in that vein. So for example, students that are caught with vaping devices and things like that, we have a responsibility to hold to the code of conduct, and this is part of the counseling that does that. We have a 360 Millennium program. So kids can't opt out of the code of conduct. They can't opt out if they have a substance in school. That's mandated by the school committee's policy.
Okay, and is there, well, I guess.
Parents are aware, yes, parents are notified.
Okay, because it said that in the document, it said that it follows whatever the state law is. And the state law says that if you're age 16, you're allowed to receive mental health services for substance abuse, and there's a couple other
Without your
things.
parent, yeah.
Without parental consent or notification. And so that's why I was wondering about the opt-in part of it. How if parents have that ability to, allow their child to opt in or out.
So, did you hear that, Craig?
I didn't hear any of it.
Okay. Laura, do you want to repeat that in the microphone? Sorry.
I was saying how in the document, the RISAS document, it says that they follow state law. And state law in Rhode Island is that if your child is 16 years old, they do not need parental consent to receive mental health services for, whether it's substance abuse or, whatever it is. And there also doesn't need to be parent notification. So there's a clause in there that talks about the opt-in and opt-out. And I was wondering if there was a way to, revise it so that it could be where the parents can decide whether or not they want their child to opt in or opt out to these services.
Okay.
And Gina had said that it's a school committee policy.
The code of behavior talks about where there's a substance abuse, disruption in school, that it's mandated that they see the student assistance counselor. It's one of the requirements for their remediation to make sure that not only are we addressing that they not supposed to have it in school, but number two, that we should ensure that we work with the family. But typically, the families are always involved in our procedures, but we don't. Our normal protocol is that we notify families. However, the student assistance counselor has the confidentiality, so they only have to inform certain things if there's a violation of law. because it's like a counselor, right? So you could only, if they're gonna have imminent harm to themselves or others, that's where the risk management comes in. But for things like this, typically the family's always involved. I don't recall a time that I've been here where they're not, or that where a parent wanted to opt out, because typically they want their child to receive support to be able to no longer use the substance.
Right. I guess I'm wondering if the student says, I don't want my parents involved, wouldn't the counselor at that point have to, abide by state law? And in that case, they would say,
Well, that happens now for example, even 18. So when they turn 18, students will say, I don't want you to tell my parents. And that's their right at 18. However, we also have a responsibility to the Good Citizens Act. So when we say, if it's going to involve them harming something, then we share. We call the families, because we have a responsibility to make sure the child is safe, even if they're 18.
okay, so that does trump okay, I see what you're saying. Thank you.
So the family-
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, so the families would be notified if there was
Right, if we have
imminent harm.
correct.
Okay. Holly?
So my question just comes down to,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Craig. I said the parents would be notified if there were imminent harm. And Gina said yes. So if you didn't hear that.
you just told us recently that we're full. We actually have a lot of mental health staff. Do we need
I
this?
don't mean to say we're full, I don't know.
Like, we have mental health staff in every school. We're full, I misappropriated that word. But for the first time, we have the staff to cover all the mental health needs, not all.
Not all. Right. We have the first time we have social worker, in the elementary.
Yes. So do we need this, or is it a contractual position that we need to have in each school? So, yeah.
So it would cost us more. So we would never get an educator at this amount of money. So, because they get also grant funded. So what I can tell you is, when I first came here, this is one of the services, and Mr. Zenny can speak to as a principal, that both he and Ms. Drake now, and now Ms. Brettanini will share, that it has been a vital part of the community for the middle and high school, because they're not in the elementary schools. This is only, they work at the middle school, the high school, and CALA. So this amount of money, we would never be able to staff it at this rate. So it allows us to have this opportunity through the grants, through the state, to be able to ensure we have the collaborative resources for students, because this is a very specific type of counseling, which is different than your typical mental health, because it's involving a substance. Back in the day, it used to be tobacco, and now it really is the vaping devices, as well as, and our peer-to-peer. They know that this is an opportunity for students who need help. That's why we brought it back down and further into middle school, because it's our kids telling us that sometimes it's older siblings providing them with opportunities in middle school that are not in their best interest. Then they become addicted, and we all know addiction is real. And this is one of those opportunities where we wouldn't be able to afford this. But I could ask, Ms. Drake, I'm sure Ms. Brettanini would be happy to share some of if someone wanted a mental health workshop at a school committee meeting, we'd be happy to share the different kinds of supports and resources so that people had.
No, I was just wondering, since you had said we finally have all of these.
This is a very specific kind of counseling.
I just wanted to pull that out and pull that thread and see if
So
we
Greg,
can save money.
I'm sorry.
I get it.
So Greg, I have a question, and I don't know if you can answer this, or maybe Gina. So it says that the cost is $30,000 in the wording. Have we budgeted for this for the fiscal year 26 school year? And then what's the term of the contract? Like
It's
from
1 year.
dates? So when does it start and when does it end?
It was supposed to already start. It was supposed to start the first day of school to the last day of school.
Okay. All right, great. Any other questions? All right, so we have a motion. Okay, thank you. Yes, I'm aware. Thank you. So we do have a motion and a second on this. We had discussion. It doesn't look like anybody else's hand is raised, so motion to approve the RISAS counseling contract.
Thank you.
Unanimous. Great. All right, approval of virtual learning day plan. Gina, did you want to talk about this one?
Yes, I am recommending approval of this plan. This is the very similar plan as we had last year. The only changes is update of the schools. The principals go through to make sure, like Ms. Brettanini being the new administrator at middle school, she checks, her sort of areas. But just so this is just in case of an emergency that we need a distance learning, used to be called, now it's called a virtual learning plan because it aligns with the law. But if there's any questions, happy to answer, but I am recommending approval as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this? No discussion. All in favor? Great, unanimous. Okay. Item 9E, discussion of second Charahoe yard sale.
This is a past event because we had it last week, but just to remind you, so the policy says that we have to notify you of the items, which you did have, but we always like the opportunity, in case you have any questions, to be able to add this to the agenda. So it's discussion. We don't have to vote on this, do we? No. Okay. I just have a quick question. What happens to the items that are not sold? Do we donate them to like Salvation Army or something like that? We are talking about different options, even maybe more, because sometimes if it doesn't go, we do let people come for donations, other districts sometimes. But in the end, if nobody wants it, then it's trash. But that makes me sad. So I was thinking about other opportunities where we could be talking about, and as budget comes us, not to belabor the point, but that we could be thinking about opportunities. And again, we don't have the bandwidth right now because we don't have the staff, but it would be interesting to, if people didn't want it and my kids didn't want it and Johnny Cake Center didn't want it, how could we maybe put it on a Facebook Marketplace or a Craigslist to really just get a little bit of revenue?
Okay. Thank you. So this was only discussion, so we don't have to vote. So we're going to move on. Approval of out-of-state field trips.
I'm approving them as, unless somebody has an objection, I'd like to approve them as a whole group of, and I am recommending approval of all the trips, as most of them, all of them are ones that happen annually.
So moved by Linda. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Craig. All right. Any discussion on this? No discussion. So all in favor of the approval of the out-of-state field trips as a group? Unanimous. Thank you, Gina.
This is also, item G is also a grant that happens annually. It happens based on RIDE's equipment fund for our technical programs. Director Auth works very hard, program by program, to ensure that we're thinking about what the needs are to ensure our programs are enhanced every year. So we're recommending approval of the MOA for the categorical funding of RIDE.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this? Seeing no hands raised, all in favor of approving this MOA? Unanimous, thank you. Budget transfers and budget updates. Greg, do you want to talk about this at all?
No, we recommend approval as submitted. Happy to answer questions.
Okay, that's right.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay. Discussion on this. Okay, no discussion, so I guess, Mr. Zen.
I thought we didn't vote on this anymore.
The budget transfers you do, not the update.
Not the update.
All right.
The update is for your own edification.
Okay, well, you put them together.
I know, because sometimes it makes it easy.
Okay.
All right, so what you are asking us to approve
Is the budget transfers.
which is $4,133 in the top section, and then $5,106.45 in the second section?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, the second
another
page.
page.
Oh, yeah, you have it.
But this was from
Right.
July 15th,
No,
and
no, that's the running record. So technically, it's the new ones. Right, so the
that's
ones
all
that
I
the
have.
date. Yeah, it's in the folder.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. All right, well. It's the list last week.
Okay. Any other discussion? Laura?
What's the total, Greg, of all four transfers? Roughly.
9, 11, 20, 1, 5.
Okay, thanks.
Did everyone hear that? 21.5? Okay, so all in favor of the budget transfers? Unanimous. Thank you. Consent agenda items 10A, minutes from the special session of the Charahoe School Committee on August 5th.
Does anybody need to pull?
Is anyone pulling anything from the minutes? Hearing no one pulling
So,
anything from the
Madam
minutes?
Chair, seeing there's none, I make a motion to move all, and this has only happened like 3 times in my 13 years, all consent agenda items. But before I do, we will acknowledge the donations. So give me a little bit of time here, folks.
Take your time.
1, thank you to the First Hopkinton Seventh Baptist Church, who donated several backpacks filled with supplies to the district. There were 36 backpacks in all. Thank you to Cheryl Krynick and all from the church who participated in preparing and distributing these backpack donations. 2, we would like to thank Mr. John Reeser and the URI Police Department for a large donation of school supplies to Charlestown Elementary School. 3, we'd like to thank the Richmond Republican Town Committee members who donated backpacks to Richmond Elementary School, which included assorted school supplies valued at approximately $280 on August 25th, 2025. 4, we would like to thank Mr. Ronald Mann, who donated $500 to the Richmond Elementary School garden and greenhouse. Mr. Mann said he was very impressed with this work. The funds will be used to support the garden and greenhouse club. 5, thank you to Mr. Frank Wyman, who donated several Walmart gift cards, a beautiful pencil and acrylic painting, and a donation of books to the district. 6, we would like to thank Main Street Pizza, who donated many sheets of pizza and trays of salad for Ashway Elementary School staff luncheon on August 26, 2025. 7, we thank you to the Jeffries family for their new inbox donation of portable disc golf basket to Charahoe High School valued at $150. I need a second.
Okay. All in favor of the consent agenda items taken as a group? Unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, so my report, opening of schools. As the year begins, I'm pleased to share that our classrooms are full of energy. Our students are settling into routines. I'm impressed with both the quality of instruction and the high levels of student engagement. Our families continue to receive information via the e-updates. We asked that in the last August and September, they received busing and reports, school calendar, student services and supports, meal programs, and then most importantly, if you want to get the text messages, sign up for School Messenger as a parent. Richmond Playground equipment is slated to ship on September 29th, which means if the equipment arrives during the first week of October, installation is expected to begin on the week of October 13th. For reference, the last installation at Charlestown took about 2 weeks, so we anticipate a similar timeline for this project. The Town of Richmond Water Advisory, many of you know on September 9th, we received a boil water advisory from the Town of Richmond. The town has reported that repairs have been completed, the system has been disinfected, and follow-up samples confirm no bacteria are present. RIDO officially lifted the advisory on the 15th of September. Guidance on cleaning and sanitizing after a boil notice is on the RIDO website for those who are interested. And the Town of Richmond has asked that if anyone is interested in getting timely updates about water alerts, that you can go to their website and select Richmond Water System users under the Notify Me. Opportunities for parent and community involvement. We encourage every family to find opportunity that works best for their time and interest. To learn more, you can visit our website or the regular e-updates. Some examples are school improvement teams, PTOs, boosters, special events, mentoring, chaperoning, special education advisory committee, green teams, etc. We appreciate any time, energy, and talents because they really make a difference for our students, and we thank everyone who's already been volunteering and giving back for their support. Our main campus 2025 building committee updates. Thanks to the strong support of our community in the November election, on our bond vote, several key campus projects are now complete. Tennis courts are almost completed, lighting is going up, we're waiting for ADA work to happen. We have the track resurface project completed, which would provide our athletes with safe, high-quality facilities. The Career and Tech Center roof is almost finished, doing a little bit of fixing here and there. Many projects are ongoing along with our improvements, but basically it's to enhance the safety, the modernization, and supportive learning environments and opportunities for our students, and we are grateful for the community support so we can make sure that Charahoe students continue to learn, compete, and achieve at the highest level on all courses. Field hockey. Parent recently raised a concern about the length of the grass for field hockey, and she's here with us tonight in the audience, so thank you for attending. Please know that we do work closely with the Rhode Island Interscholastic League, and officials are responsible for reviewing our field conditions prior to competition. If any field were deemed unsafe, officials would not permit play to move forward. While we do acknowledge that our fields, as you all know, are needed of improvement, they may not be ideal. It's important to emphasize that they are safe for student athletes. But I actually just today, Mr. Zenny and I met with Justin Cahoon, our athletic director, and our coach, Ali Bobbin of the field hockey team, along with our previous coach, Joanna LaFountain, to be able to talk through some very real solutions that I thought they were very innovative and creative, and I think we're creating systems so that we can give the school committee a plan about really all of our field needs and create more of an opportunity so that it's an ongoing item This has been, as many of you know, an item that has taken its toll on us because we've lost a lot of staff and we've lost a lot of, this is where the budget gets cut sometimes, and this is where we're feeling, and I think that now that we feel that. And that's all I
Scott has his hand.
Oh, no, you can't speak during superintendent updates because it's only report out.
Okay. Unfortunately, we can't take public
Not
input.
during this part. Is it about? Okay, no, yeah. I get it.
Somebody left it.
Mr. Sunderland, would you like to send us an email so we can know about your input? Okay, thank you. Okay, so superintendent's report, thank you. Coming events?
Please make sure you tune into all the events. Most importantly, this Saturday, we're going to celebrate our District Teacher of the Year. This is not on here, but I think it's an important recognition. I will be there and present to support Lindsay Blivin. And as always, we have lots of Spirit Week is this week for the high school, lots of homecoming dances, open houses. So we hope you look at the coming events and participate.
Thank you, Gina. School committee requests for future agenda items or legal opinions. Craig.
Greg, do you think somewhere in the future, I'm not asking for it tomorrow, with the field hockey situation, all the parents complain about is they want a synthetic surface. I'd like to know what it would cost us. Just a general idea.
If we were to look at the main field,
No questions. He's asking. We can't talk.
Yeah.
So you want this to be put on for a future agenda item?
I'm sorry, can you talk into it?
Do you want this to be put on for a future agenda item?
We're planning this for budget.
This is the agenda item that we're talking about right now.
That's up to you folks.
Okay, I'll note it.
9:59.
Yep. It's 9:59. Jess?
So at the budget subcommittee meeting on September 8th, I made a motion for our members to compile a list of possible agenda items that we could bring to the full school committee regarding the budget. Speaking for myself, the goal would be to inform members and the public about preparing for budget season and continuing to make the process as transparent and accessible as possible. And I'd like to open this initiative up to everyone here and ask that if you have any recommendations, please share them with Ms. Karen Reynolds. She's the chair of the budget subcommittee, so that we can discuss it at our next meeting and hopefully bring some items to the regular school committee agenda to make this budget process, to start planning in advance and get some items on the agenda that could help.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Polly?
The 8th graders want their DC field trip back. I'm still hearing it.
Is that an agenda item?
Are we putting this on the agenda, or is this a huddle with Greg and Gina and see if it's doable for
I
fiscal
don't have
year?
anything to do with field trip. That would be like a school improvement team technically. That's why I have to know because the middle school would have to be.
So which school improvement team would that go to?
Okay.
It should first go to the school improvement team.
Okay.
Technically, it should first go to the principal, because you have to ask for the agenda item.
Polly, can you bring that to the school improvement teams?
I can bring it up at the next one.
I go to the Ashaway one,
Okay.
but that's elementary school, so that you're in the middle school. Yeah, I mean, I'm getting a slight revolt from all the 8th graders that I know.
Okay. Thank you for bringing that to our
Stalking around,
attention.
demanding it.
Do we have a motion, any other future agenda items? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, we do. Motion to adjourn. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Good night. Thank you, everyone.